Now to our very first story, government is once again being asked to take drastic steps, including the reshuffling of its appointees with the aim of massively cutting down on costs and restoring confidence in the distressed economy. The finance minister continues to be one identified person who must exit office. There's more on the following report.
Not going to the IMF. Whatever we do, we are not.
Mr. Oforiatta has been under pressure since government opted for an IMF program. He, however, continues to enjoy support from President Akufo-Addo.
I came to office in 2017 under an IMF program, which Emmanuel Biden said, stringent program. This same man was able to manage the affairs of our economy in such a way, sir. The first 4 years of my first term, we were one of the fastest growing economies in the world, an average growth rate of 7% a year from the beginnings of an IMF program.
Economist Professor Godfred Bokpin ever say he lacks the capacity to continue to lead the negotiations with the IMF.
Anytime we are outside an IMF program, the fund, the development partners, they are a bit lenient with their comments, more diplomatic. But when you come under a program, you've lost your bargaining power. So you see how they are coming hard at us now. They are asking you to prove this.
Show proof, yeah.
So last year you were not under any program, so they could understand your assumptions. You can explain that, oh, how about this debt? Oh, you know, this is ring fence, this is that, this is this is that. But right now, they are saying everything must come on board. So especially when you check in such a vulnerable state, you don't have, you can't negotiate from position of strength. We shouldn't have gotten ourselves in this place. To come out of this, as I said, what the market is looking for is that bold decision from the government that says that, look, and it may have to be a bit radical, which means that you are sacrificing your interest and the interest of your inner core and your political party for the common good. Other than that, if you tell me that these people have performed excellently, then probably it will be for reasons not for the common good.
A view shared by some men of the pulpit.
But wrong is wrong. When you are wrong, I need to look in your eyes and tell you, bro, you are wrong. That is what is killing this nation. This is the time, Your Excellency, to make changes. And those changes must be to the honor and glory of God. Our finance minister, who even though is a Christian, have failed miserably. And I am telling Your Excellency, with all due respect, this is the time to make drastic changes. We cannot sit here when $1 is equal to 12 cedis. 12 cedis!
Some milk, which was 2 Ghana cedis, now 8, 7. How would a mother buy milk and put in a tea or porridge for her children? In less than 24 hours, our cedi had depreciated against the dollar from 1390 to 15,000. It's 15.16. It's now 16. Recently, the vice president arrested a cedi and locked it. Is it the dollar or the cedi? The dollar. The dollar, and locked the dollar up. I hear the dollar has broken jail.
A member of Parliament for Domikwa Sarah Adjwasafo will now know her fate this week when Parliament resumes from its 3 months break. The MP has been absent for more than the constitutionally allowable days, with the Privileges Committee of the House recommending she loses her seat as MP. Speaker of Parliament Alban Kingsford Sumana Bagbin will make the decision on the matter when the House reconvenes. Parliamentary correspondent Kwekwa Sante takes a look ahead of the big issues that Parliament will be contemplating upon their return on Tuesday.
Sarah Adjwasafo should keep her seat.
The Speaker, the committees of this House has the authority to determine the urgency of a bill. Once they make a determination, it binds all of us. Plenary has no business in this. People should understand that. So this is not the first time a committee is authorized to make a declaration for on behalf of the House.
And the Parliament of Ghana is not the Speaker of Parliament. And that the Parliament of Ghana is not the chairman of the Subsidiary Legislation Committee of Parliament. And that Parliament is not the majority leader, nor is it the minority leader. That the Parliament of Ghana is the well-constituted 275 members of Parliament elected thereon to exercise the legislative authority of Ghana on their behalf. On their behalf. And therefore, Mr. Speaker,
so a report has to come to this House, and the committee has to demonstrate to this House that the person was given the opportunity to exercise reasonable explanation, and the person did not provide reasonable explanation.
Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin deferred the decision to October when the House resumes.
I have consulted the old lady. The old lady has given me an advice, and I think that advice is correct, because the issue raised by the majority leader is both of substantive and procedural law. And I need time to submit to this House a reasoned, written ruling. I cannot, in the haste of today, give you the ruling.
Well, the time is due now, and with MPs returning from their constituencies on Tuesday, the Speaker's ruling is the most anticipated on the business agenda of the House.
So this has been a long-drawn battle. The lines are drawn now. The majority side are going all out to argue that Sarah Adwoa-Safo should lose her seat, whilst the minority, surprisingly, are rather supporting the Member of Parliament, saying, if anything at all, that debate must come to the floor and the 275 members of Parliament should take that decision. It is expected to drag on for a while. When Parliament resumes in October, members will be expected to go back to this vexed question and take a decision that will potentially leave some precedent for the future. This Sarah Adwoa-Safo saga is not going away.
Parliament will also deal with a number of key issues at this meeting, including considering the 2023 budget, an economic plan of government in the times of economic difficulties and hardship, as well as a number of bills. For Joy News, Kweku Asante.
Let's now turn our attention to the Upper West region, where a 60-year-old cattle dealer, Alhaji Isahaku Sidiki Famina, has won the chairmanship of the National Democratic Congress, the NDC. He beats incumbent Chairman Mohammed Sule, polling a total of 850 votes. Both the incumbent constituency secretary and the youth organizers were retained. Correspondent Rafik Salam has the rest of the story.
4 years ago, Alhaji Isahaku Sidiki Famina was vanquished. He was defeated by Mohammed Sule, nicknamed Chairman Fuel. Chairman Mohammed Sule was popular among the NDC party faithful, and as a result was the man to beat. He dominated the campaign right from the start to the end and won with ease. Though the NDC has been able to retain the West Central parliamentary seat and up the presidential votes, the reign of Chairman Fuel has been characterized by deep-seated division in the party, alleged embezzlement of party funds, and sometimes blows traded at the party office. Alhaji Isahaku Sidiki Famina, ever since he lost the last election, he never turned his back on the party. In fact, at some point, he was a cradle of the party which most supporters found solace in. The writing surely was on the wall for Chairman Fuel, but like the proverbial dead antelope who doesn't hear the sound of the flute, he still went in for the contest. He was therefore shown the exit door by unsatisfied and unforgiving supporters who gave in an overwhelming mandate of 684 votes to 398 4 years ago, but now sees his continuous reign as a complete waste of their time. Alhaji Sagu Siriki Famina's persistence and perseverance paid off and is now the victor, defeating all four, Chairman Fuel, with a margin of 39 votes. Here is Returning Officer of the Electoral Commission, Dr. Joseph Willivan, declaring the results.
That person got 117 votes, and that is Rashid Bixton, followed by Mohammed Sule, 811 votes. And the one who topped the list is Al-Haj Siddiq Famina. He got 850 votes and he stands elected.
Alhaji Saku Famina is 60-year-old cattle dealer, married with 4 wives and 15 children. This tax you have given me is not for me alone. It is a tax for all of us. My doors are open for all. All suggestions are welcome so that we can build a party to win power in 2024 election. There was no space for consensual speech, but we received a consensual hug from one of the vanquished, Rashid Bixton, popularly known as the People's Chairman, signaling unity after a heated campaign. Abu Salih Futama flamed out the political ambition of Abbas Wunwana of returning as the party's most central constituency secretary. The position of the youth organizer had 7 aspirants. However, Abdullah Ibrahim had the ladies' luck and was retained as the youth organizer. Another position where there was much interest in was the women's organizer's position. Hussein Mata Abdul Aziz was seeking a 3rd-term bid for the position against Saudata Basiruddin JB. The latter won the race with 107 votes against 88.
Just doesn't mean I have won. We have won. The entire NDC fraternity has won. The entire women's wing of the West Central constituency has won. And I pledge myself to fulfill my promises and to deliver very well to the people, and most especially the women of West Central. And I also plead on them to come on board for us to work together for Victory 2024.
Upper West Regional Secretary of the NDC, Lawyer Charles Longo Pozun, swore the newly elected executives into office. He was happy with the conduct of the polls across the region, stating that the NDC was battle ready to defeat the inept and corrupt NPP government in the next general election.
Because there's a lot of energy based in the grassroots of the party. And you can see how energetic people are interested in the outcome of the election. We believe that Ghanaians are suffering too much and they want an alternative. And that alternative is the NDC.
Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam.
Let's still stay in the Upper West region, where a group calling itself Get Ken Elected 2024 says it is heavily disappointed by the performance of the governing New Patriotic Party at a meeting in while leader of the group, Musa Dayan, said the only hope for supporters of the party and Ghanaians at large is to vote for persons who have the country at heart and who can solve the current economic challenges. Rafik Salam again.
Members of the group calling themselves Get Ken Elected 2024, drawn from all 11 constituencies in the Upper West region, says they have lost hope in the leadership of the New Patriotic Party and, for that matter, the government in their bid to turn the economic fortunes of the country. They stated that the New Patriotic Party NPP is not honoring the social contract they entered in with the citizenry in the 2016 and 2020 campaigns, and they are rather doing the reverse. They noted that majority of the supporters of the party are disgruntled and gnashing their teeth and are fears that the party may lose power in 2024. Mumuni Jamil is the Upper West Regional Secretary of Get Ken Elected 2024.
A lot of the rank and file are disappointed. A lot of us are disappointed. We are disgruntled. You know, what we expected, the way we expected the party to perform is not performing as expected. Meanwhile, we know that it is only NPP that can solve the problems of Ghana. But those at the helm of affairs are not helping us.
A stalwart and former national chairmanship contestant of the NPP, In 2001, Musa Dayan, popularly known as Alhaji 94, averred that the only hope for the MPP is when they elect people who have the nation at heart and can solve the challenges of the country. For him, though the party has not yet opened nominations, the best person who can solve the challenges of the country is the Assistant Central Member of Parliament, Kennedy Ohinihajepong.
Based on what he has been doing, fighting for the youth, you see, especially you see these NAPCO boys that were not paid. Now, one camp got up. Now they are forcing to get them paid. Youth in afforestation, they are now fighting to get them. Now the people in authority are calling on the delegates to come for work. You know the work that they give them. They give them this. How do you call it? Urban roads. That one, when they give it to you, you go and borrow people's money to come and do it. 4 to 5 years when you raise a certificate before you can get your money. When you get the money, you cannot even use it for one bag of cement.
Commenting on the latest election survey conducted by Global Info Analytics, which reveals that 70% of Ghanaians believe that the MPP cannot break the 8, he stated that the survey is tied to some personalities in government.
One thing too is if we want to cross the 8, without Kennedy we cannot cross it.
Why do you think so?
Why I think so is, can Baumia, the vice president, now stand before Ghanaians and say, I will arrest the dollar? The answer is no. Can Kennedy say it? Yes, because he never said it anywhere. Can Alan Termanton stand before Ghanaians and tell them that he will create job for the people, cash for the packet? No, he can't. Can Kennedy Ajapon say it? Yes, because he never promised Ghana.
Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam.
Poor parental control and poverty have been identified as key factors accounting for Ghana's increase in cases of teenage pregnancy and child marriage. The challenges are impeding the ability of the girl child to attain her full potential, largely in formal education. To end the problem, government introduced a 5-year strategic plan to retain the girl child in school without pregnancy. I beg your pardon. The journey has, however, not been easy for girls in such situations. In the second part of a JoyNews latest hotline documentary dubbed Girls, School, Pregnancy, we'll hear stories of some of these adolescents and actors in the educational space on interventions being deployed to make life easy.
Discrimination, exclusion, and inaccessible or low-quality support and services. That's according to Anne-Claire Dufay, UNICEF representative and
girls who move to this side.
A common feature associated with teenage pregnancy in Avedakpa, for instance, is cohabitation. A fair number of the girls who are pregnant or adolescent mothers are cohabiting with their partners against the will of their parents. Dorcas's mother stated that her daughter had recently left home to live with Onassis. She's tried everything to persuade her to return home, but she's been unsuccessful.
Dorcas Avinye, Anya David Bona, Nuida, Abunama, Awanang Shamwa Pama, Agbona, Varo Garama Koiko, Vajagla. Amawaika Jila or the Shad, Intati the Shad, Cavino, Wakuravin, Ato Popo Clavia, Mawevu, Avinia Rokovagba, Potok Potiarokova Vulanchi.
Jesus, we need your girl child may be one, but yes, we need she may be one. Pilots, we need she may be one. Oh yes, dance for their talent. Send them to school.
When you are growing, your hormones will start developing, and at a certain stage, you have feelings, okay? And you will be attracted to the opposite sex. It is normal feeling. If you don't have that feeling, it means you are not a human being. That feeling will come. But when that feeling comes, it doesn't mean go and have sex. Do you understand me? Animals also have the same feeling. And they are not human beings, so they don't have the self-control that you and I will have. And so at this stage, if you do not control your feeling, it may end you in trouble. Now, when it comes to sex, there is also a law or laws concerning sex. So as a young person, you must know that although your body belongs to you, when and how you have sex is regulated by law.
The director of the Volta Regional Department of Gender, Daiwilpe, in partnership with the Girl Child Education Unit of the GES, are holding mentoring sessions for teenagers at the Avedakwa DAGHS. This program is put together with girls like Dorcas and her mates in mind. Dorcas goes to school here. Today, however, she's absent from among her mates because she's at the market assisting her mother in making ends meet. She's undoubtedly missing out on all this informative and constructive session. The same is true of regular school hours. While her colleagues are in class, she's preoccupied with wifely and motherly responsibilities. By the time she's through with all of that, the day is past and there'll be no school.
Second part of the documentary is at 8:30 p.m. on this channel this evening. Don't forget to make a date with us. That's all for the news. For more, log on to www.myjoyonline.com. My name is Pakwisi Shandoff. Don't go, stay.
Welcome back to the AM show here on the JoyNews channel. It's time for us to look into the papers to talk about what the papers are reporting this morning. And we are fortunate enough to have on Zoom the Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa, Suleimana Brahima, to be our guest this morning to help us go into the papers. Good morning to you, sir. I hope all is well.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. All is well.
Great. Now, I have with me the Daily Graphic. I have the Finder newspaper, the Daily Guide, the Ghanaian Times, the New Crusading Guide, the Publisher, the Meridian. Let's start with the Daily Graphic. On the front page, it says, Experts brainstorm Constitution review. Also, Presec, Prempe at Disco cruise to final. Mahama support dialogue on economy. Mr. Brahma, amongst the three schools, is your school represented in there?
Well, not at all. I went to one of the great schools in the Ashanti regions, Ashanti region, Tepa Secondary School, which I think some 2 years ago
did wonders.
Performed creditably. Creditably by ousting schools like Wegehe and others. And last year, I think they were into the quarterfinals. So this time around, not that far, but we remain a great school.
Okay, all right then. Let's pray. My school has never made it to. We've never crossed the regions. The day we will, I've already promised my team that would take a whole day on JoyNews to celebrate the school. So congrats to your school. You've been there before. Mine hasn't. So I'm expecting it. But let's start from the brainstorming on the Constitution review. Now, a research and advocacy organization, the Institute of Economic Affairs, IEA, has commissioned a 10-member team of experts to develop and present papers on key areas of the 1992 Constitution for possible review. The experts include the Majority Leader of Parliament, Oseche Mensah Bonsu, the Minority Leader, Haruna Odrisu, a former Justice of the Supreme Court, Justice Stephen Alan Brobe, former President John Ejiokum Kufuor, and a former Chief Justice, Justice Sophia Ekufo. Others are the former Commissioner of the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, Justice Emil Short, a member of the Council of State, Sam Okujeto, and the chairman of the Committee of Experts that drafted proposals for Ghana's 1992 Constitution, Dr. SKB Asante. Now, long list of what they are expected to present on. For example, Justice Short will be presenting on the excessive powers of the president. Mr. Sam Okujeto will be presenting on the 1992 Constitution, proposals for amendment. The Professor Abochi will be presenting on development constitutionalism, building a trusteeship that works and benefits citizens. Now, we've been here before. We've reviewed the Constitution. We've gone to Ghanaians to ask for what they wish changed in the Constitution. Nothing worked. What sort of hope do you have for this work that the IEA intends to do?
Well, my only inspiration, as you read the report, is basically the caliber of persons that are involved. Otherwise, I would say it is a process that is just intended to find works for some people. Because we've had an occasion where the state itself has set up, a mechanism to help review our Constitution. And the entity that was established, the Constitution Review Commission, which was then headed by Professor Fiajo, if I remember correctly, or it was Professor Dankwa, with Professor Raymond Atuguba as the executive secretary. And a lot of work was done, nationwide consultations. A lot of resources were put into that. At the end of the day, there is a very, very elaborate document that was prepared, about a 1,000-page document, indicating what people said, the recommendations that people made, and what going forward we should do as a country. I think that document is really comprehensive, very specific to the issues, and anyone who really wants to look at amending the Constitution does not really have to constitute any new task force or any new group to look into the matter. The Constitution Review Committee report clearly spells everything out. And I doubt if any individual entity, be it an NGO or whatever, would have the resources to be able to engage in the way that the Constitution Review Commission engaged, and be able to prepare that kind of elaborate report that was prepared. So if anybody is interested in reviewing the Constitution. I think we already have what it is that would guide us. At the end of the day, it all comes to whether the president of the day is interested in having the Constitution amended or reviewed. Because I remember this committee was constituted by Professor Mills, and from all indications, Professor Mills was interested in having the Constitution amended. And the Constitution Review Committee's report, appropriately titled it "From a Political Constitution to a Developmental Constitution." So I really don't know what would be new for a group like this to establish. We already have the framework. We have what the people said. We have what the people said they need. And if we are interested in amending the Constitution, let the state act.
All right. Now, if you go to the page 24, it says, "I won't reverse free SHS, President Akufo-Addo." Now, the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has made it clear that he will not, under any circumstances, reverse the free senior high school policy. He said those advocating a review were those who initially opposed it. He explained that to the best of his knowledge, reviewing it means reversing the policy. The president disclosed this in an interview with the Nkoko-based Republic Radio 97.5 FM in the Kwahu West Municipality in the Eastern Region last Friday to begin his 3-day tour of the region. We've been here before. We've discussed this one a couple of weeks ago where calls were rife for the free senior high school policy to be reviewed. Now, the president is forthright with it, says, no, I will not review it in any way. If you look at the current circumstances under which the policy is being rolled out, recently we've had issues with no food in some senior high schools. But the president is still, on where he started, that I will not review. From how you understand the policy, the challenges that the policy is going through, how do you or do not agree with the president on his stance that I will not review?
Well, first of all, if the president says I would not reverse free SHS, I don't know what he is responding to. I follow the media and public discourse quite closely, and I'm yet to come across any piece of advocacy that says free SHS must be reversed. In terms of review, yes, I've heard a lot of people talk about that, and I am for that. We've implemented the policy for the last 5 to 6 years, and I don't know of any policy that would say, look, this policy is so perfect that after some years of implementation, talks about reviewing it amounts to being asked to reverse the policy. I think that is really the tragedy of our country, and I think that is the problem that this government has, and that's why we find ourselves in the current situation, that we are complaining about. We have a leader who is very autocratic with his principles and with his views. It's almost like when I say this, that is what it is, and even if it turns out not to be the best, I'm still sticking with it, and damn the consequences. That is the kind of leader we have, and that is why we are where we are. Whether it is free SHS, whether it is ministerial reshuffle, whether it is going to the IMF or otherwise, we've had a situation where the president, just basically takes autocratic decisions, and once taken, that's it. It's almost like to review it would mean, I'm not the best, or I don't know what I am doing. And as I said, that is why we find ourselves where we find ourselves today. Go to the IMF. No, I wouldn't go to the IMF. We are a proud country and all of that. Free SHS. I remember when multimedia decided to do that fantastic job of speaking to parents, speaking to students to find out what are their experiences, what would they recommend. What did the president say? Oh, there is an advocacy against free SHS. And I think there cannot be anything more dictatorial than what we are experiencing today. We don't have to have people in military uniforms to say that we are under a sort of dictatorship. It's about the policies and whether the leader allows people to air their views, allow people to contribute to shaping policy, allow people to sort of articulate their concerns so that if we all establish that, look, things are not the way they should go, then we sit down, we judge and find a way to get us on the right path. But we have a president that if I say it is a yes, you can disagree or whatever, but I don't care. I would continue to do what I would do. And that's why we are where we are. So I don't think anybody is saying that free SHS must be reversed. What people are saying is, look, let's look at it after 5 years. We need to review it. And I believe that, yes, we need to review. If it's about whether or not parents should make some contributions, whether or not what is the level of government's contribution to the free SHS policy, these are issues that we must discuss. The government is pretending that it is able to do everything under the free SHS, but the reality is that it is not. We're talking about the food crisis that we are all experiencing. We're talking about teachers complaining behind the scenes. Headmasters are unable to speak up. Teachers are unable to speak up. You go for PTA meetings and they will tell you, look, these are the basic needs. Ordinarily, we would have asked parents to contribute, but please, we cannot go public. That parents must contribute. So it's up to you. If you parents want to do something from behind the scenes, yes, you can do that. But as teachers and head teachers or headmasters, we are unable to make this public. That is the system that we find ourselves in. When you talk about it, people say, oh, that's not true. Which teacher is not able to speak? That is the reality. And that is when people talk about the repression, when people talk about the culture of silence and all of that, these are the manifestations. And I think that this will not help if the president continues to go on this path where what I say is final, my view is final. I think that is what has brought us where we are.
Looks like you are sort of disappointed in the response by the president.
Well, at this stage, I mean, if you look at what is happening across the country, the reaction from people, yes, there's a global crisis. We appreciate that. Every country is going through some sort of struggle. But in our case, it's as if this is the epicenter of the global crisis. And you cannot but certainly attribute it to bad leadership over the last 5-6 years. And it's all about a president who feels like, look, this is what I want to do. Nobody has the right to talk about it. Yeah, of course, you can talk about it, but I wouldn't take it. You can say what you want. And I'm going on, even if we are running into the ditch, as we've realized we are doing on many fronts. Yes, that's where we are going. So the disappointment is all over. It's not about the free SHS and whether we reverse it or we don't reverse it. I don't think anybody is calling for a reversal. We need our kids to be in school. We need the future generation to be educated. It's a good policy. But every good policy must occasionally be looked at. And then where we have to make adjustments, we have to make it. But if the president pretends and behaves as if, look, it was something that, is so perfect, cast in stone, nothing can be done about it, that is the sort of pretense that has brought us where we are. The economic challenges we are facing and all of that is down to the fact that we have a president who is like, Mekebi, Aubia and Kebi, whatever I say is what it is. Meanwhile, we are told we are in the democracy, which is Kebi, Mami, Kebi. But that's not where we find ourselves.
But in the past, his government has rescinded several decisions when the public had spoken against them. So can we really conclude that, in fact, what he feels that what he says must be final?
I'm wondering which the decisions that you are referring to. I mean, people agitated against e-levy, for example. What happened? It was introduced. People agitated against the National Cathedral. What happened? I think that is one of the, if I may say, the cardinal sins of this government in terms of how much money has been pumped, state money has been pumped into that project. Now it's a white elephant. The buildings that were there, fairly new buildings, pulled down, at the cost of the state. Judges having to be relocated. New buildings rented for them at the cost of the state. And it's sitting there, white elephant, because we don't have the resources to do it. People complained, people agitated. And what did he say? He said it's a priority of a priority. People started talking about going to the IMF maybe about 2 years ago. What did we have? Go to the IMF, go to the IMF. Finally, even a month before we went to the IMF, the government was still saying, look, we are not going. We are a proud country. We know what to do. We only went there, like somebody said, in an ambulance where we don't have control of ourselves and whether we choose to go to the hospital or not. So I don't know which policies that people complained about and the government rescinded. Dome level, people agitated, and what happened? They changed his date of birth, or they gave him a new date of birth and fired him. So that's the kind of government we find ourselves we have. And what can we do? Of course, we are still in a democracy. It's certainly better than what is being experienced in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Guinea in terms of military being in power. But I don't think that we are having the best of leadership at this time.
Okay. All right. Now, the Ghanaian Times says IMF deal will reduce hardship. That's according to President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Parliament reconvenes tomorrow. Approval of 2023 fiscal policy high on agenda. Police gunned down armed robber. Another escapes with gunshot wounds. And Czech government honors Ghanaian businessman with national award. Now, the IMF story is on the page 16. It says President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo says he's hopeful the outcome of the International Monetary Fund IMF negotiations would tackle the high cost of living in the country. Now, he admitted the cost of living was high, but was optimistic that the package of measures which would accompany the IMF program would address the economic issues successfully and reduce the hardship of Ghanaians. I quote, "Yes, we are going through difficulties, but at the same time, we are trying to do well in other areas. The fundamentals of government policy is working. We have almost 121 District 1 factory completed and 300 of them in the pipeline," he said. So that's the president giving assurance that, well, things will be fine with the IMF coming into force. I mean, you just said a while ago that people advised that we should go earlier. We didn't. We went there on a stretcher, sort of. How hopeful are you when you hear the president say that, well, the IMF will indeed help us come out of where we are today?
Well, at this stage, that's our only hope. And so I'm not surprised that the president himself is hopeful that it is the IMF intervention that would save our situation. Because really, where else can we turn to? Our economy is in shambles. It's been mismanaged. The person who took over, an economy that was, well, I wouldn't say a very strong economy, has run us into where we are. And yet the president says, look, I would still keep him, whether you like it or not. Elsewhere, leaders would even say, look, even if it is to just get the public confidence and to get the markets to react, I will make that decision. I mean, Oforiatta can be at the presidency and still be calling the shots, even if he is not the minister. If you want him to do that, you can have it. But like I said, that is the kind of president or the kind of leader we have. At this stage, yes, we can only hope in the IMF bailout, and that's really our last hope. So it's not surprising that the president himself believes that that's where the hope is coming from. And so let's look forward to what happens. I think we would have been better off if we had gone earlier.
But we've been here before. We've been to the IMF 16 times. We go there, we come out of it, and then we go there again. What must change? What must happen that is not happening, that we sort of seem to run to the IMF anytime there's danger? I mean, we would go there, we would be okay, and then we would come and mess up again and go back.
Well, it's just about a continuum of bad leadership over the period. It's not just in Ghana. In Africa, that is the tragedy of our continent. Having leaders who are not really patriotic and wants to see their country move forward, have a better generation in the near future or in the future. We've had a situation where, fighting corruption has become one of the most dangerous things to do. Domelevo lost his job because he wanted to really fight corruption. And they did the weirdest of things to get him out. Battling over when was he born. The person says, I was born, baptized, They say, no, we've discovered a new date of birth for you, and by that you are over 60, and so step aside. And what was the reason? Because he wanted to fight corruption. People would say, oh, he was talking too much, and I mean, is talking too much a crime? So it's, for me, a continuum of bad leadership. And look, yes, what we are experiencing now, partly due to the global crisis, but mainly due to bad leadership. I think that the president himself knows that a lot of resources has, gone down the drain. We talked about the National Cathedral just a while ago. Which good leader would be focusing on a project like that, pulling down buildings, pumping in state resources when you don't have people having ordinary water to drink, when you have school kids still studying under trees, when you have school kids lying on their bellies to ride? Which good leader, who wants to have a country develop, would do that? You talk about free SHS. The people who would eventually get into the free SHS are not having chairs to sit on, are not having classrooms to sit in. And then you say you are doing free SHS. It's not a bad thing, but if you are truly committed and honest about it, and it's not for political propaganda, you wouldn't be wasting money in places like National Cathedral, state looting, luxurious private jets, and all of that. I am very sad because I really hoped that President Akufo-Addo would have done the kind of things that we will remember him for, leave a big legacy that we would all be proud of. Kwame Nkrumah died, before some of us were born, but we still talk about Nkrumah, celebrate him across Africa. Why can't we have a leader who will do the same thing? So that's why we continue to go to IMF. Mahama was there, we went to IMF, and, previous presidents, we went to IMF. Now we are back to IMF with all the endowments we have: gold, bauxite, cocoa, timber, good resource, land, planting for food and jobs. We've been talking about it, propaganda. And today, look at food prices. Where are all the things that have been produced? One district, one factory. Last time I heard how many factories have been built in Ashanti region and 27,000 people have been employed. And I'm saying, really? Why should we do this to our country? But that's the leadership we have. And we are in a democracy. As I keep saying, far better than anything military. And so let's keep doing what we have to do.
All right. Very interesting point there. Let's do this on the from the Daily Guide. It says, Nana opens beer factory at Nsawam. 2 more bodies exhumed from Mankesin killer's room. Government to seal IMF deal before 2023. Czech Republic Anes Kumasi shoe factory chair. But over the weekend, your organization awarded some journalists for their sterling work. Those included our own JoyNews' Kwete Nate and Seth Kwame Boateng, who were awarded for their investigative prowess and reporting at the just ended West Africa Media Excellence Awards, WAMECA. I'll come to you, Seth, for your thought, but let me speak to one of the winners, who is our own Kwete Nate. Kwete, thanks for joining us. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, brother. I'm doing well.
You have to teach me how to ask how are you in Ghana. I could have, gone on that leg with you. But what does this award mean to you? I know you are a fantastic journalist. Investigative-wise, you are just solid. Being awarded, being recognized for your work, what does it mean to you, really?
It means that hard work still pays. It means that investigative journalism continues, to blaze the trail. It has a future. It means that it has been done by someone. It can be done by others as well. It may be risky. It may require a lot of funds. It may require that newsrooms give space for investigative journalism. So for me, it's not about the plaques that we collect or the applause that we get from winning this award. But what it means has to do with the future and then the aspirations that some of these awards, inspire young investigative journalists who are hoping to walk in our shoes.
I know investigative journalism comes with its own huge challenges. What do you think needs to happen to, help you guys do the work that you do and live comfortably as you want to?
So using the story that picked as this award as an example, it has rest. So you expect that the state would continue to give assurance to investigative journalists that no matter the efforts we put in place to hold those in power accountable, you can still do your work with the hope that you'll be safe and secured. Investigative journalism is one work that requires a lot of funding. You know, in the U.S. where grants and monies are available for investigative journalists to tap into, we are hoping that in future these opportunities would be abound. Investigative journalists would not have to only rely on their media houses, you know, to do their work, but they can tap into some of the resources to pursue their work. Yeah.
All right. What would you tell to young people, young journalists who would want to toe your line, become excellent investigative journalists in the future?
So it's not about the scheduled assignment. It's not about, you know, the he said, she said stories. But one thing that stands tall has to do with the fact that when you invest in some of these stories, it pays. It pays. It's not about, you know, chasing the little money that comes with covering these assignments. But, you know, it's about the impact you leave on society. The smiles that you bring on the faces who, if it hadn't been you, their stories wouldn't have been told.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, it may appear risky, it may appear daunting, but if you invest in investigative journalists as a young reporter, one day it will pay, as it is paying now.
All right. Thank you very much, Kwete. You are a big man, you know, a very, very big man who is helping a lot of us here to get to where we have to. So grateful and happy for you that you received this award. I am sure that it will spur you on to do a lot in that area. What is the future like for Kwete Nate? Okay, so that's it. We've lost Kwete there. But we still have Mr. Suleiman Abrahima with me on Zoom. So your organization has been awarding you know, all of these journalists for the fantastic work they are doing. Over the years, you've done this for a while now. What do you make of what the impact that you're making, this award is making on the field of journalism?
Well, it's one of the greatest things that we could do for journalists in our region. And if you talk to some of the past winners, the inspiration they get from this, and how it builds a network for them, how it helps them even do better in terms of mobilizing resources to do more because of the recognition that they gain from this. Because really, this is big. And I must commend multimedia, because so far in Ghana, it's been multimedia that has been able to really save us. Because all the winners, you know, since the last, this year was the 6th edition, has come from multimedia. Seth Kwame Boateng has been the overall winner before and has won 1 or 2 categories before. Kwete Nate last year was a joint winner in terms of the overall journalist of the year with a Nigerian journalist, and this year won again. So it's been multimedia all this while, and it's a very, very competitive exercise. This year, for example, 952 entries from 16 countries, cut down to 40 by the first jury, then cut down to 25 finalists by the second jury. And remember, these are people, the jury members are folks who have done, you know, it all, and not from West Africa. We had only 2 from West Africa, 2 from East Africa, 1 from Southern Africa. And so for these people to decide that, look, we think these are great journalists, the 25, and ultimately settling on 9 of them as category winners, I think it's really, really a big thing. And I believe that it's something that would continue to serve as an inspiration. As Kwete said, it's not about the plug or the money that you receive. The Pulitzer Prize is recognized as the globally the most, you know, prestigious journalism awards to receive, but it comes with $500. So it's about the recognition that you gain with this kind of award and the fact that it inspires you. Kwete, for example, and Seth, who won the investigative journalism category, would be sponsored by the Global Investigative Journalism Network. next year to participate in a series of conferences around the world, which for me, again, opens up an opportunity for you to network with colleagues around the world. So it's a great thing, and congratulations to all winners. Congratulations to Kwete and SET, and also to Multimedia for always being the organization that does it for Ghana.
Thank you. But I'm sure there are some experiences you've picked along the line that you feel we can better to make it more, to take it to the next level. What is that lesson that you learned that when worked on will make this one really move to that next level that you're anticipating?
Well, personally, I would wish that we have more women getting into the competition in general, and then ultimately having more women winners. I mean, I was really gratified when, for the first time, we had a woman winning the overall best journalist in West Africa, and also having three other women coming on as finalists, and having one of them from Burkina also winning a category. So I would encourage a lot more women to put in their entry. They may not make it, but who knows? Then the other thing is that this year we had a winner from Guinea-Bissau. All along, the Portuguese-speaking countries of Guinea-Bissau and Cape Verde had always thought that we don't consider them. But what happened this year is a manifestation that, look, all countries are competing, and any country, a journalist from any country is capable of winning. So it's more of encouraging more people to submit their entries from, especially the countries that are not doing too well. Look, I have had the occasion of having colleagues from Liberia and Senegal raise an issue, because so far Nigerians have been winning it, and there's no doubt about that, because they have far more stronger, bigger media organizations with resources that can invest in quality journalism. But then there are some people who are saying, look, we cannot compete with Nigerians. If you leave it to that, then it means that every year would have Nigerians winning it all. Is there a way to introduce a tier two competition so that some countries can also make it? But I think journalism standards are journalism standards and cannot make any compromises.
Wow. So it presents a challenge to all of those to then step up to get to the level of Nigeria so we can compete fairly and win as well. All right. I'm grateful to you for joining us this morning. Enjoy the rest of your day, sir. So that Suleiman Abrahima is the Executive Director for the Media Foundation for West Africa. But just before I wrap, let me do briefs from the other papers. The Finder says, NPA boss calls for efficient fuel distribution networks in Africa. 17 1D1F factories completed in the Eastern region, 16 more under construction. That according to President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Cocoa price dispute, Ghana, Ivory Coast boycott meetings with multinationals. Well, maybe it's time for us to look into joining the area of adding value to our cocoa so we can participate in the larger area there. Now, so that's it for the Finder. New Crusading Guide says more resources coming. Kandapa Shore Security Services going to the IMF for bailout. An economist advised government handlers overlooked. Okay. All right. Now, former maritime boss fingered in a Dringan land attack as IGP releases suspect. Operation End Illegal Mining launched in Doma East. Ethiopia minister to recommend Jospon Group to his government. Publisher, Sam Jonah calls for urgent restructuring of economy. Zoomline grateful to government calls for continued support. Africa needs efficient fuel distribution network according to the MPA boss, Mustafa Hamid, Dr. Mustafa Hamid. Kandapa Lord Security Agencies for Peace in Ghana pledges government support. 3 to 7 minutes of sex is normal for men, according to studies there. Now, the Meridian says we'll continue to resource the security services, according to Kandapa. Africa needs efficient fuel distribution network, MPA boss. We need update on the economy like COVID-19 and manpower of our right. Akufo-Addo commissions Abomosu STEM model SHS. In Eastern region, 17 factories completed in 1D1F, 16 under construction. Custodian, we are keen on resourcing security agencies, security services, Kandapa says. Ethiopia minister to propose Jospon Group to his government. 296 factories to operate under my tenure, Akufo-Addo says. President commissions Abomosu Model STEM SHS, and that does it for the Custodian Republic Press. Take my advice, Mahama tells government. Economic woes shall pass, Akufo-Addo assures Ghanaians. Armed robber shot dead in Ashanti region. 1D1 F-17 completed, 16 under construction. Cement price surge above 80 cedis. Depreciation bite manufacturers. One person shot dead at Ghana over land dispute. And that does it for the news review. Stay with us. We'll be back with sports here on the AM show. Stay with us.
Good morning. Welcome to AM Sports here with me, Muftau Nabila Abdullah. President of the country, Nana Akufo-Addo, has advised the leadership of the Ghana Football Association not to interfere in the work of the technical team of the Black Stars headed by Otto Addo. According to him, if Otto Addo is allowed to do his work independently, Ghana will perform well in this year's FIFA World Cup in Qatar.
All of us know how football is important to us. There's nobody who lives in this country who doesn't understand the importance of football. We grew up with football deep in our hearts and fanatical about it. So we want to wish you the best of luck. That's it. And I hope that the preparations that you have outlined here are good enough to give our players the best possible opportunity to perform well. I'm hoping that the technical team that you've chosen, I was impressed by them, the way they handled the qualification. And I remember when you came here, my saying that I hope that in the end you would keep the team intact. And you did that. I think it's the best possible basis on which to go. But having chosen the technical team, Mr. President, I would also implore you, leave them to do their work. The work being also to choose the players. I think that the people who run football clubs, they know what it is that you require of a good coach. He takes the responsibility. If he doesn't, you know what to do with him. If he works out, but what is always a problem is minister saying this person should play, president saying this. The president tells me I should tell you that ex-player should play.
A message there to the leadership of the Ghana Football Association. And let's talk about one man who has been part of leadership of the Football Association, Fred Papo. He was on Prime Take last night, and he has revealed that he will not contest for the position of president of the Ghana Football Association again after losing the 2019 GFA presidential elections. According to him, elections in the country has been monetized, and he does not have the energy to indulge in that.
Because they are delegates. Because they are delegates. Delegates know what they vote for and who they vote for.
Based on the track record that you've had at the national team, at the GFA, don't you think that you deserved at least good votes more than you got? You got 6.
No. I could have even gotten less. That's what I'm saying. Of course, I must respect the delegates. I must respect their views. I must respect their choices. But what you should understand is that you cannot force somebody to choose and prioritize his parameters. So maybe you may look at something more than you expect him to look at, or in a more different way. He may not necessarily look at track record. He may not, there are a whole lot of parameters that people look out for, So, but you just have to.
And the crazy thing is that I do recall having a conversation with one of the presidential candidates who actually said the elections were expensive. Have we politicized or have we monetized football politics?
You mean
the GFA elections 2019?
I think all elections in Ghana are monetized, sadly. You can hardly think of any elections in Ghana which are normal, I'm sure even in churches.
Even in churches?
I think so. all elections, they are monetized one way or materialized.
Yes.
If they don't give you money, maybe there might be some material exchange or some expectation of material or financial gains after, or in case your candidate.
So do you think if you had money, you probably could have had better?
Not a matter of me having money. It's a matter of me deciding to spend my money that way.
So you refuse to spend it on delegates?
I could have had money at that time to do that, but maybe I didn't decide. I didn't see any reason to do
On
that.
a hindsight, do you think you should have? Because as someone...
No, I have no regrets. I have no regrets that I got 6 votes at all. I'm a freer person now. My junior brother, good friend Kate, is carrying
the pressure. As a policy analyst, next year there will be GFA elections. Would you consider to go and develop policies for the GFA?
No. You mean to go and contest or develop policies?
No, contest for FA leadership again.
No, I wouldn't. I don't have the energy.
You've given up?
I've not given up, but I don't have the energy. Just one basic thing. Yes. You have to tour the regions of Ghana. Yes. That in itself is physically exerting. I don't think I have the...
And financially draining.
Oh, the financial... Interestingly, there were so many people who came up with all manner of gifts and support for my campaign. So the financing wasn't a problem.
And talking about the GFA elections, tomorrow will be exactly 3 years since Kojo Brace was voted into office as president of the Ghana Football Association. And it's going to coincide with a contempt case against him and his executive committee, as well as other interesting matters that are arising. We'll be sharing those with you tomorrow here. Instead of contesting for 2 terms, they are considering extending it. I'll share details with you tomorrow. Let's talk about the Black Meteors. They were in Mozambique, Maputo to be precise, for an AFCON qualifier against the Mozambique under-23. And Afriye Banya of Accra Hearts of Oak scored twice as Ghana won 2-1.
It is Drive Safe once more with me, Benjamin Akapo. Thank you for joining me. The last time we were talking about car tires in terms of the markings on the tires and the purpose of car tires. We all know that, but didn't we learn quite a lot? Today we're going to learn even more as we take a look at the right type of car tire. And we'll also start with the thread markings on car tires, which will indicate to you when your tire is due to be changed. Sometimes you look at the tire and feel, oh, I can still go on with it, but no, you must change it. So we'll find out about all of that on today's segment of Drive Safe. So you think you know? Check out today's road sign and whether you can guess what it means. All right, so at the tail end of today's segment, we'll find out what that road sign means. But let me come to Cecil Gabra, CEO of Top Tech Transport and Logistics. Always good to join you.
Thank you, Ben.
Right, so let's talk about, we're going back to car tires and we're focusing on them for quite a while. So before we get into the other bit about car tires, I want us to start with the thread markings. Walk us through that.
Okay, right. If you look at the LI 2180 to be specific, Regulation 62 talks about the tread limit of the tires, and a lot of people are having it wrong. Again, I'll go back to my half tie, which is just here. But there are a lot of markings on the tie, but I'm talking about the tread. If you look at this tie, for instance, and then you get to the spare parts dealers, or you get to Abosiokain, obviously you tell the guy that, oh, if you have 3 more ties, please let me have it. But this tie that I'm holding is about 20-something years. But you see it's so fresh. How would you know? Right, there is this indication where everybody must know. Okay, if you look at this tie, it has this information FGA 069. Forget about the FGA, but pick the last 3 or 4 digits at the end of the tie, and that gives you the manufacturer's date. For instance, this is 069. This tie was manufactured on the 6th week of the year 1999. I'll take that again. This tie was manufactured on the 6th week 1999. This is 3 digits. Remember the millennium issue, we had 3 digits and we went to 4.
Right.
So 4 digits will tell you that the tie was manufactured in 2000 and above. But if you look at this tie, it says 069, and I take that again. 6th week, that's the first 2 gives you the week, and then the last 2 is supposed to give you the year
so this
of
would
manufacture.
Be the 2nd week in February 1999.
And remember that you have to use a tie for a maximum period of 6 years, whether it is new or old. I quite remember those days when I was a little boy, my dad would go and buy the Firestone tie. I mean, ties were being manufactured in Ghana.
You've done that one before.
Yes.
Put it under the bed.
Under the bed.
To cook well.
Yes, to cook well. I'll say tie in the bin, and then that's what the whole issue is about. But it is so wrong. You buy the tie, you must use it. Now let's go to recent times, right? If you look on my laptop, it says 5105. It means this tie was manufactured on the 51st week of the year 2005.
Right.
Now next slide is even much more easier, okay? Last 4 digits, 4515. Remember the first 2 talks about the week, and then the last 2 talks about the year. So 4515 means this tie was manufactured on the 45th week of the year 2015. You have 6 years to use this tie.
Which means that for a tie like this in 2021,
yes, I don't want to use the word it's expired.
Its span.
It is, yes, it has got to its time. It is not expired. But this is what will happen. You start having cracks on the tie, okay, on the side walls of the tie. And that should tell you that any moment you are going to meet death.
Does this apply whether or not the tie has been used?
Yes.
So let's say it's still, you know how sometimes the tie may be that old, but you still have it in its packaging and everything. It's not even been used. Does it still apply?
Yes, it applies. 6 years. So you go to a shop, let's say in the UK, £100, £200, £300 for the same Michelin tie. Obviously, you go for the £100, but the wholesale or the seller will tell you that, look, this tie is getting to 1 year to 6-year period, which means that if you buy that tie, then you are going to be in trouble. So you go to the MOT test in UK, and then to be indicated that, oh, gentlemen, your tie has got 1 year period for you to use it, and then you need to fix new ties for road safety purposes. Mind you, I didn't mention that the tie has expired, but the tie manufacturer is saying use it within a period of 6 years. And that is the issues that we have in our country. Now, the next thing that I'm going to talk about is the tread limit. And if you look at the LI 2180, to be precise, Regulation 62 tells you that your tread limit on the tie must not be lower, I'm talking about lower so everybody will understand, than 1.6 millimeters. How would you know? Right. We have a lot of information on the ties. First of all, there is this notch in between the ties here, okay? If you can see it, right, this is the notch. This notch is a 1.6 millimeter notch.
Okay.
So you buy a new tie, you will realize that the notch is buried in there. If you ask the taxi or trotro driver, he'll tell you that, oh, this one, we see it, we need to remove it. When you go on your brakes, it will disturb, but it is there for a purpose. Now, how would you know? What I'm holding is the tread limit, the tread gauge. Okay, so if you go for a DVLA test, what happens is that you first of all calibrate it to 0 and put it in the tread. Now, this is measuring 1.9 which means it is good to go.
Right.
Right. Now you come to the side and then you measure it, it is 1.0, which means that this tie has failed the test and you must not use it. So this is very important. If you don't have the gauge, you can use a coin and then put it in the thread, put a coin on a ruler, and then you get the information that you want. So never use ties that have the minimum thread of 1.6 millimeters. Remember, I said car ties are killers, so kill them before they kill you. How will you kill them? Just get 4 sets of brand new ties. Okay, and that is not expensive at all. If you buy the used tie, you keep on changing and you spend money on it. But if you buy the fresh ties, it should take you for a period of about 5 years, 6 years, depending on the usage of the tie.
When you go to these car tire sales people, they will tell you, oh, home use there, no one a bosu and no one a bechama. It's not true.
That is not true, and that is why we spoke about the manufacturer stage.
Right.
Use the ties within a period of 6 years, that is one. Check the threads and find out whether the thread limit have not been exceeded. It should be more than 1.6 millimeters. If it is lower than that, don't buy that tie. And I'm not saying home second-hand ties are not good. We can pick up some good ones from it.
Right.
Okay, by getting the manufacturer stage right and then also getting the thread limits right. Now check for cracks. If you see any crack on the side walls, please don't buy the tie.
It's a no-no.
It's a no-no because the threads, what I'm holding is called a tubeless tie, okay, and then the tubeless tie must have the side walls intact. When you have any cut, then it means that you'll be in trouble. So car ties are killers. Buy new ties and then you'll be free.
So when he says car tires are killers, it's not that they will kill you, but if you don't follow the specifications and do the right thing, you just might end up killing yourself and maybe other people. But who wants that? Nobody. Thank you, Cecil, for joining us once more on Drive Safe. This is part 2 of car tires, and what we said we would focus on, the types and what to go for, will come your way in part 3, and the information just keeps coming and coming and coming. But before we wrap for today, how about we find out? So you think you know, check out whether you got the road sign correct. And it's a wrap for another segment of Drive Safe with me, Benjamin Akaku. Stay with us, and next time we'll be talking further into car tires.
All right, so welcome back. This is still the AM show. Let's talk about Ghana's economy. And now we all know where we are. Analysts to discuss how to revamp the sector or Ghana's economy following the IMF program. We know that we are in difficult times. A lot of people are really crying about the times we are in, that any time you wake up, things you bought yesterday, the price will not be same if you go there today. And people are calling for drastic measures from government to help solve it. Today we are being told that the price of cement bag is increasing about 80 cedis. People are crying. So what do we need to do as we go to the IMF for a bailout? What do we need to do to ensure that as we come out of it, we'll be better than we were? My guest today, Professor Ebo Texan. He's an economist with the University of Ghana. I also have Professor Charles Aka, who is a research fellow at the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, ISA, and also Seyram Kawo. He is senior lecturer at the University of Cape Coast School of Business. Thanks so much. Good morning to you for joining, and grateful that you found time to join us here.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Great. Sarah, let me start with you. As we head to the IMF, we hear that the negotiations are going on so well. My major question that as I talk about the economy every day is, how must we get out of this IMF bailout unscathed?
Thank you very much. There is the need for us to see how best we can ensure that we produce what we eat in our country. The agri policy of the country is very important. And so going to the IMF, because most of the things that we import are food items. And so the staples that we produce in Ghana, we need to make sure that we work hard on these staples that we have. The issue of galamsey, that is destroying our farmlands, must be something that government must take a drastic action on it. The president had put his presidency on the line, but the commitment to ensure that this is done is something that we are not looking at. The management of our forest is something that we must also take a second look at once we are going to IMF. One of the things the finance minister said was that during this time of the year, we have a lot of demand for dollars, where people are importing for the festivity season. And during this particular period, we have a system where they have monies from other donor agencies and loans that come in. And because we are cut off from the international financial market, it becomes difficult for us to get this funding that is there. That is a system we have used for a long time. And that system that we've been using for a long time has not been working. Why don't we change that particular system? During this particular time, government should take over the payment of these imports. Not government, Bank of Ghana. The importers have their monies with them. So the transfer fees and all those things are something that would affect. So Bank of Ghana, the banks that we have in Ghana, can decide that we want to keep our system working. And so we are doing these transfers for these people. The charges, we are waiving it off from this particular time. And when we fix the rate at that particular point in time, those that we are going to pay the money to, they will not have any option but to accept the rates that Bank of Ghana is paying. When we do this, we would have a good way out. Our wage bill, we have been saying that is too high. To leave this particular system, government appointees must be reduced because they come with a lot of fringe benefits. And this is weighing hard on the economy. And once it is weighing high on the economy, we need to make sure that we reduce this particular system. Going to IMF, we are leaving everything to the forces of demand and supply. You go to one market today, the prices of commodities, the same commodity is selling at different prices in different shops. We cannot allow this to continue. We need to have a system of price control on some essential commodities in our country. When we do that, that will help us go a long way. We are going to IMF. We are not having deliberations with the citizens. The minister talked about 5-member committee that will engage the citizen in ensuring that we all move hand in hand with how we can meet the IMF. This committee hasn't been inaugurated, hasn't been outdoored. Have they had any meetings in terms of TV, radio, community engagement? Some of these things we are not saying it. And so we encourage our managers of the economy to do some of these things. These are my essential inputs when we are going to IMF.
But as you state that all of these things that need to be done, you're not sure whether they have been done. How does it then give you hope that we may be getting it right, even with this program coming into force?
My brother, my hope is around 40%. Not too much, because we are not seeing much to be done. It looks like our managers are relying solely on the IMF deal without taking their own action to ensure that they do something before the help comes. God helps those who help themselves. And if you want to get something onto your head, you need to try to lift it up so that others will help you. But if that is not happening, then I am not sure whether we can get out of this particular situation. I'm not a doomsayer, but getting out of it will need deliberate and consistent effort from everybody, and everyone must be brought on board. The academia must be brought on board, but that is not happening, and that did not give me so much hope.
Well, let me bring in Professor Ebo now. Prof, there's this research published by Larry Lee et al. In the Journal of Policy Modeling, Insight into the IMF Bailout Debate, a review and research agenda. Now, one thing they stated in there, which I think we should probably look at, is that they say that IMF bailout policies typically have a short-term focus. Recipient countries are forced to implement economic reforms to return their budget to surplus in a short-term period of time. However, in the long term, tough austerity measures, austerity packages may further deteriorate the weak economies of recipient countries. Doesn't this really foster the reason why we have been to the IMF about 16 times? That because of the short-term measures of the IMF bailout, it doesn't really give room for the economy to be restructured in a way to accommodate the tougher measures that will be coming in.
Thank you. Good morning to your viewers and listeners. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Clearly.
Yes. So thank you for the opportunity. Yes. The Bretton Woods institutions, the IMF, the World Bank, have been in the developing world for some time. Initially, their consensus didn't really have the impact that they expected. So over the years, yes, they have always come in to help alleviate short-term issues that countries have. But the reform package that they now support countries with has some elements of long-term measures that are supposed to be homegrown solutions to the short-term problems that we tend to have. So yes, I agree with the authors. That was some time past. I think that the new consensus is looking at the fact that the reform package should be drawn at home. And so if you look at, in recent years, our reform that we've gone to the IMF for, most of the solutions were homegrown. Some of them were targeted at the supporting the economy to get out of the short-term challenges. But most of the informed policies are geared also towards the long term. And if you take, for instance, domestic resource mobilization, you notice that it's always on the table when these reforms are being pursued, the need to increase or improve domestic resource mobilization. That is a long-term effort, so that in the long term, we don't consistently build up our fiscal deficit that are transformed into our borrowing, higher debt. Then we get to the same problems and we have to go back to the IMF. So it's changed. So I would not entirely agree with the authors that you quoted for what is happening currently. So that is the point I need to let you note.
Okay.
But what is important is that now the reform packages are built on what we need as a country to do, not to repeat the short-term problems that we tend to have. Obviously, I mean, there are external factors that are beyond the country's control. And these external factors, when they occur, will depend on the resilience of the economy withstanding those shocks. I think the discussion, the debate of the reform package now is to see how countries build that resilience to withstand some of these external shocks, because they are beyond the control of the economy. So in the last one that we went in 2015, we tried to pursue some long-term measures that were going to help us get out of this crisis and build a resilient economy. It so happened that when we had just exited and we were trying to see our best to build a resilient economy, COVID hit, an election year, we know what happened, and then just afterwards we are seeing this increase in oil prices because of the Ukraine-Russia war and other factors. But obviously, I mean, we have internal issues that we need to deal with. And I've said that as we diagnose the issues now, we need to focus on 5 main issues that are currently worrying us. One, there are domestic issues that we need to contend with. We need to try as much as possible to find a way of increasing our domestic revenue to the threshold of about 25% of GDP. Currently, it is too low. We need to also reduce the rigidities in our expenditure, because that also plays a role. As we speak, as of last year, over 140% of our domestic revenue mobilized goes into the payment of compensation to employees, to earmark funds, and then to interest payments. These are expenditure items that you normally cannot touch, but we can reduce in the long term if we put in place very good strategic policies that will help us to reduce the extent of rigidities in our fiscal space, so that we can free some space, especially for capital investment that we need to expand the productive base of our economy. So there are issues that are internal that we need to work at. But there are also issues that, as a country, in the long term, we need to take a look at. As we go on, I know you begin to ask some of those questions, and then we'll address them.
But I'm happy about you saying that there are some things that we need to look at in the way we spend the revenue we generate. I'm sure managers of the economy know that this is what we need to do. Why haven't we been able to do all of that in the past years? And how can we really do it going forward? We need to ensure that we are stepping, into this whole thing with a one step forward to ensure that we don't come back. So what do we need to do really? How do we begin it?
In the political economy issues at stake, the reasons why at times some of these hard choices our politicians find it difficult for them to pursue. Because it comes at times with some cost in terms of the objectives of our politicians. The objective is to win an election.
So it affects the political fortune, eh?
At times they prefer
20 hours
to create a mess to win the election and clean it up later. So our political business cycle is part of it with these political economy issues. Some of these issues are very tough decisions that have to be made. But Ghana has to come to the time that we realize that no matter what we do, these issues will keep on coming up. And the best thing we need to do is to confront our problems and deal with them decisively, no matter the political cost that comes with it. And I know the politicians will be laughing at this, but I mean, obviously, these are the solutions that we need. Hard choices. Domestic resource mobilization. Going out there and making sure that we widen our tax net. We'll come with some sort of, at times I feel that there's a sense that the politicians want to go into the informal sector to collect a lot of taxes, because people in the informal sector do not normally get higher levels of income, and so there are issues about equity and all of that. But if we don't raise enough income taxes, it will be very difficult for us to fund our development. We need to take a look at that. We need to take a look at import exemptions, for instance. Difficult political choice that these politicians would find difficult to make because of obvious reasons. I don't want to go into that. But most importantly, also to try as much as possible to cut down on government machinery, especially political appointees. We know people put their lives on hold to campaign, to go around the country to get a government elected. But people do not have to be in political appointments to play a role in government. And it's important that we come to a realization that we cannot have a very large size of government and still think that we can raise enough revenue to fund that. There are social interventions that are indiscriminate. And for me, as an economist, I think that we've moved beyond indiscriminate subsidies. We need to target our subsidies. And one of them that comes readily to mind is the free SHS. I mean, I've heard comments that it doesn't take too much of our money, but every penny or every peso that we save is saved to do other things that can expand the productive base of our economy. I understand that it's building of human capital, but I don't understand why parents who are in the position to pay are being offered a subsidy that they really do not need, when that savings could go even into improving the system of education at the secondary level. So it's important. It's about time that we also allow the public universities to charge some realistic fees. I mean, all over the world, tertiary education is not supposed to be free, so that the universities on their own partially can pay for some of the things that they rely on government for, so that it is some fiscal space for the government to also do other very important things. I mean, I don't know why you give free education to somebody as SHS and even highly subsidized tertiary education for the person to leave the university, come out, and there's no, finding it difficult to get work. Those resources, if we save them by letting them pay a little bit for that, could be used in other sectors to expand the productive base of this economy, so that when they complete school, they can get jobs to do. It is some of these decisions that our politicians find it very difficult to pursue for political economic reasons. But if we don't get to that point, I think that it would not help us. I mean, for instance, I've said this over the years. Do we need that large size of parliament? I mean, for instance, because we have earmarked funds that go there. Do we need that size of parliament? Can't we have a much smaller size of parliament to still do mainly what they need to do as contained in the constitution? Do we need to expand it? I don't think so. I mean, as we speak, I think that 100 members of parliament for a small country like Ghana shouldn't be too much, so that we begin to cut down on certain things, so that when we get to the point where our economy has expanded and our GDP has increased enormously, and then our debt to GDP ratios have dropped low, we can begin to have the luxury of expanding parliament and doing other things that we think that we can do. But this is not a time for that. And quite clearly, the sort of crisis that we are going through now clearly confirms that we are beating more than we can chew. We need to go back and try as much as possible to clean up our books so that we don't get to the point that we are now.
But on revenue mobilization, we all know, for example, with the e-levy, how the large section of Ghanaians really objected to it. How does government come up with measures to rake in more revenue when we are averse to new taxes? How can they do it?
I don't think that Ghanaians, you don't raise more revenue by choosing new tax, especially a tax like the e-levy that some of us won that was not going to bring in anything. I mean, a tax that was a product like Momo service, that is very elastic. You don't impose taxes on them. People will change their behavior. And that's exactly what has happened. We've got next to nothing. And if you don't mind, let me take you back to January when this thing came up for discussion. I mean, I think that the failure of Parliament to approve the budget was a clear signal that went to the investors about the possibility that the fiscal consolidation that was promised in the 2022 budget was not going to be met. And that is where we got a first downgrade. And that is what has brought us to this point. I mean, that was a totally needless tax handle that we introduced. I mean, if you do the economics of it, it was not going to bring in any much more revenue. I mean, so we can raise more taxes, block the revenue leakages, and make sure that we are very efficient at collecting taxes to bring in more tax revenue. Widen the tax net, we don't need to necessarily introduce new taxes, because if we take our indirect taxes, I mean, the levies and the duties and that people pay at the ports, I mean, it's part of the reasons why our currency is depreciating now.
Well, Prof, I was asking about the how, because it looks as though anytime we talk about raising more tax revenue, the idea is let's bring in new taxes. That's why I want to find out how can government raise tax revenue without necessarily bringing in new taxes.
Precisely, government can do that. Why not? Like I said to you, we have between 70 and 80% of our population in the informal sector. Majority of whom do not pay taxes. How do we get to them to pay taxes? We are talking about the Ghana card. We are talking about how successful digitization been in our economy. Let's take advantage of that. And let us educate. The National Commission for Civic Education should let every Ghanaian know that government can only deliver roads, government can only deliver what they need to deliver to us if we pay taxes to them. And people should not live in this economy and not pay taxes. We should go and pursue them. We should attach certain government services to taxes that people pay. For instance, if I'm in the informal sector and I don't pay any taxes, I shouldn't be able to have access to, for instance, driving licenses and passports.
Okay.
So when you begin to attach certain government services to people showing their tax that they've paid, it will compel people to, on their own, go and pay taxes. In most of our advanced countries, nobody comes to pursue you to pay taxes. But you find that it is better for you to pay taxes to have access to government services than not. I mean, just as display of the team numbers, I don't think is good enough. I know the government over the years have tried, especially for those who go in for government contracts and so on and so forth, to show their tax returns and all other things that they need to do before we should extend it to a provision of basic government services to individual households so that people will be compelled to pay taxes. We don't need to introduce new taxes. If there is going to be any new taxes that we need to introduce, we should target the higher income bracket for people to pay more taxes. I mean, but for the average Ghanaian, the average Ghanaian is finding it hard to make ends meet. I think this is not a time for us to go and saddle them with more taxes. I mean, we pay enough taxes, and we need to ensure that we are very efficient in the payment of taxes. I'll give you one very good tax handle that we did that I thought was the discount on the benchmark values. I think that the reversal of that policy is not working in favor of governments. As soon as it was reversed, we've seen an increase in the activities of the power market on our foreign exchange market because importers are going there to get their dollars, getting it out anyway to import and come and not declare. We need to take very drastic action now to make it less profitable for people to make use of the power markets. And one of them, I think, is for us to bring back the discount values in terms of the duty and look at the components of the items that benefit from that discount. I think that part of the reason why there was cry from the AGI was that some of the components that were benefiting from a discount were goods that are produced here. We don't need that. We need to properly target such a policy so that importers do not use their own way to evade the payment of duties because they are too exorbitant and they need to make profit. I mean, there are a lot of things that we are doing that we need to do differently to reduce the pressure on our domestic currency.
Okay.
And what is one of that.
Okay. Masera, let me bring you back in here because Prof is talking about what we need to do to reduce the pressure on our city. Of course, that is to ensure that, or to make sure that our local industries are functioning well. This government brought in the 1D, 1F. We all know how things are going. But if you look at how the 1D, 1F factories are progressing or are doing, what do you think needs to change to ensure that they play that vital role of helping Ghana to do that import substitution that will give stability of a sort to our city?
All right. Thank you. The import substitution is very key. That would help us produce the things that we need in our country. And so the 1D, 1F policy is a good one that, if implemented well, would help all of us. But then that policy is shrouded in politics, where you have to be linked to the political party before you benefit from it. It's also a situation where we have individuals who own these factories. And so the community involvement, the district involvement is not there. For me, my the way these factories could work was for the districts to establish technical committees devoid of politics. Once they do that, these technical committees look at the factory they want to establish. Let the people in the communities, in the districts, own these factories. Let the people be employed. And so shares are floated and they buy shares in these companies. Proper management is in place. And it's not the political appointees that are managing these factories. Once they do that, the factories employ the citizens that are there. They manufacture what is needed, and then there will be production. We can do these things across the country, and we will not have few of these factories that are running. We'll have a lot of them because there is involvement of the community. But as we see it, the one district, one factory is like, it's for some group of persons who produce. What they produce is not on a large scale, but on a minimal scale that they are producing. And that is not going to help us revive our import substitution industry. And that is a worry to every Ghanaian.
But yeah. One critical issue about the 1D1F should be about resourcing those factories or financing them. Because I know, for example, the ones that are in the rice industry, the problem is about sustainability of raw materials. We are not able to do it because these companies require some amount of money to be able to then, cultivate large tract of farms. They don't have it. If you speak to them, the issues are that the funds that are supposed to come in are not coming. So how do we solve that issue of financing these factories to be able to then produce at the rate we want, then to reduce the burden on the city or on the city, because we need more dollars to importing the goods that we could probably grow in Ghana?
Thank you. If you look at the financing that have been given to some of these factories so far, have the monies been used for that particular purpose? The answer is no. If the monies are used for those purposes, you realize that these things would go a long way to revamp these factories that we have. In financing these particular factories, should be a paradigm shift. So, Prof talked about the tax education. There is the need for education for the managers of these factories to do the right things. There is the need for a mindset change. The way we do things in Ghana, there are factories that are managed by Ghanaians and these factories are closed down. But when you bring people from outside, they do it and manage it and revamp these same factories from internally generated funds, not funding from government. So when the funding goes to these companies, do we have a system where they have to pay back with interest and a period fixed for them, or it is money that is given to them, use it anyhow, and then you will come back to us and we'll give you some amount of money?
No, the monies are given to them by banks, commercial banks that have seen that their business plans are feasible and bankable, and that's how they inject those monies in. But the issues from what I've heard is about the regular release of those funds. A bank can look at your project, it is agreed, but then there are issues about the release of funds, and that really stifles the growth of these companies.
Yes, because the banks have agreed with government that we are going to sponsor the 1D, 1F system. And these are the projections that the companies have brought on board. But when they do a critical analysis and they look at how you are using the funds and they realize that they are not going to get return on that money, even the capital, if care is not taken, they are going to lose that amount of capital. The banks will be reluctant in giving out the money, and therefore affecting the funding of these projects. If the projects are devoid of politics and done in a way that the community is involved, as we are talking about now, there are technical people who are doing it, so that if one political party changes hands, the rest will not come and say, this is for a government, and for that matter, this is how we are doing it. That way, we would be able to get the funding and the regular flow of funds that go to these particular industries that are being established. But where we do everything, and everything is politics, the banks will be very careful in lending their money because there's a lot of credit risk and political risks associated with some of these businesses that we've done. It has happened in the past where some banks have involved themselves in financing some oil marketing companies and the rest, and their monies are gone. They will not want to use people, depositors' money, and put in those sectors that they realize are not productive. And they are not going to get the people's money that they've given to these ones, thereby putting their businesses in jeopardy.
Okay. Let me bring in Professor Charles Aka with the...
Can I make a point?
Okay.
Prof wants to make a point.
Just a minute, sir.
Okay. Yes, so the 1D1F that you're talking about, yes, it's a very good intervention. We know we started this sometime after independence, it didn't work. There are obvious reasons why it didn't work. I'll be surprised if the government is politically involved in setting up these industries. I think that was a mistake we made in the past. The government, I know, is supposed to just provide a conducive environment for the setting up of these industries. The reason why I think the slogan 1D1F was to at least target at least one industry like that in
every district, yes.
So that at least it's going to offer employment to the youth in those areas. And partly, if it's possible, to have a share of the ownership of those 1D1F, partly residing in the indigenous of that area, right? To the extent that it's turned political, I'm not too sure if I'm aware.
Exactly. I'm also not aware. What I know is that
I'm not aware of that.
business people.
I know businessmen who are now being 1D1F that have no political. Absolutely. I mean, and it's important that we become very careful the way we bastardize some of these very good interventions. Because once we begin to throw politics in it, supposing there's a change of government, a laudable initiative like that is thrown overboard.
Okay. All right.
It's at the center of the problems that we have as a country. When we get around this 1D1F, possibly move the slogan away from a political party manifesto to a national agenda, we get it right. We reduce our reliance on imports, we begin to promote exports, and that is at the center of the issues that our economy is facing at the moment.
Okay. So at this juncture then, let me bring in Professor Charles Aka. He is a research fellow at the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research. He can help us get a balance in this. Prof, grateful that you joined us. We are talking about 1D1F now because, like all my panelists have agreed, it is at the core of ensuring that we do this import substitution model that will really put less pressure on the city. What do you think we can do as a country to get it right with this particular initiative?
Yeah, thank you very much and good morning to your cherished listeners. I hope you want me to talk about the 1D1F or you want me to talk about the currency depreciation.
So I want you to start from there and then we'll get into the situation, the fiscal situation we're talking about.
The 1D1F, I think it's a laudable idea. But I mean, from work that I have done, I don't think it's very strategic.
Oh.
And I think we need to still go by the model of having special economic zones. We don't necessarily need to have a factory in every district if we cannot have economy of scale. These become very small micro factories. And for us to be able to generate economies of scale and produce more to export, firms need to be located in a cluster. We need to build in each region or nationally look for strategic areas where we can locate a couple of firms, integrated industrial policy, and support them with electricity, support them with all the incentives that they need. Like we have in what we did in Tema. and we got the prison enclave, and then we do some in Takoradi and Kumasi. So it could be regional. I prefer regional than the district scattered small factories across. They are not able to produce much, and then they don't get economies of scale, so the cost price doesn't come down. And then in the end, they are not sustainable after one political party is gone, under one comes, they collapse. So we may need to look at how to engineer it properly and give them the right incentives. So otherwise, I think it's good, because in the long term, what we want to do is to reduce our dependence on imports. We have gained political independence since 1957, but we have not gained economic independence. So our economy is still enslaved by West. We depend on everything from the West, capital from the West, products from the West, services from the West, and all of that we need to pay in foreign currency. And we need, for the next 5 to 10 years, actually to get economic independence. And that will mean that government needs to support every attempt at industrialization to produce what we eat, what we wear, what we use, and that to use fiscal policies to make sure that we also consume and use what we produce here in Ghana. That will mean that we need to have trade policies that will make imports more expensive and exports more cheaper, and Ghanaian products more cheaper relative to foreign products. So that's one of the things we need to do. We cannot just do it just building factories. It has to be integrated trade industrial policy. So, for example, if you can put factories to produce sugar, or a factory to produce rice, or to produce poultry products, and you still allow this cheap import, you know that almost every cow in Switzerland is subsidized by the government of Switzerland, up to the tune of almost 400 euros. Every cow you see in Switzerland. The government pay farmers to produce for quality meat, quality poultry, for milk and things for consumption in Switzerland and to export. We cannot allow our fishermen.
So if I select that I want a cluster, what I'm essentially telling the CSSPS Secretariat and the software is that if I do not get Konongo Odumase as my second choice, they should look within schools that have similar strength and similar strength in terms of subscription, in terms of the category as Konongo Odumase, and place me there.
All right.
This is also something that we brought on board. Again, this year we are also looking at adding about 5 STEM schools. And these are newly built science, technology, engineering, and maths secondary schools. These are schools that is going to offer only STEM related programs and give opportunity to candidates or the students for STEM career pathway or career pathways in STEM. Again, we are also adding quite a number of schools to the TVET space. You know, TVET, that is a technical vocational educational training. This time around, we are increasing the number to about 212 schools. Last year, if you look at the subscription rate to the TVET schools, you have about 40,000 students that subscribe to TVET. So what it means is that you, the media, you are really helping us. I mean, currently people's perspective on vocational and technical education is quite changing. And if you look at a subscription rate of about 40,000 last year, the expectation is that this year it will also be higher than that.
Right, okay. So this issue of the various criteria that is used, because those who subscribe for certain schools are usually more than the vacancies that exist.
Yeah.
This mode of selection, is it manually done, where you say, for example, if you have 400 students but there are 200 vacancies, then beyond the grades, we begin to whittle it down. So if we look at the raw scores and we see that cuts the number, then we take some off. And then if we look at in terms of residency, then we, you know, that whole process, how is it done? Is it keyed into the system, or people sit behind the machines to do that manually?
Okay, so if you look at the subscription rate vis-a-vis the vacancies declared, at every time the vacancies are really more than even the subscription rate. Except to say that if you look at the model that we practice in Ghana,
the vacancies are more than the subscription, or the other way?
No, the vacancies are actually more than the subscription.
Okay.
But it's because of the model of placement and selection regime that we practice in Ghana that makes it appear so, where students have an option to select a school of their choice. And if they qualify in the space, you have to put them there. So at the end of the day, you have the category A schools being overly subscribed than the vacancies. But
okay,
in
so
real
the vacancies here, you're talking about generally.
Generally.
Okay.
But in real fact, you realize that there are a lot of other vacancies. For instance, I will use the school in my own hometown, my district, for instance, or at every point there are a lot of vacancies that are not even taken up by students. But of course, you compare or remind to say Presbyterian boys. I mean, Presbyterian boys will be having more subscription place. Once a candidate or a student is eligible to be placed in the school of choice, then such a student must be placed. But like I said, first of all, you have to look at some variables before you place such a student or such a candidate. First of all, you are having to look at the number of ones that a student had.
Okay.
That is the first criteria.
No, I know you've explained that. I'm only asking how that system is put in place.
Yeah.
Is that selection process done by individuals or is keyed into the software, and the software has a way of,
yeah, so
making all
in terms of the selection process is done by the students. It is the placement process probably I'm sure we are referring to.
Yes.
So the placement process is done by three main modules. First of all, we will look at the automatic placement system. That one is purely automated, where the system has been programmed to produce such an outcome. So, I mean, if you pass, first of all, it's gender sensitive. It also looks at compare your grade to other students, and of course, look at the vacancies that are available, and then comparing, just opposing with your residential status and other variables, including the program of choice that places you. That one is automatically programmed and no human interface is required. But of course, we also go beyond that. At some point, you may also have a manual placement regime. Manual placement usually happens when the secretariat is dealing with students with special needs. Okay. And sometimes you may also look at categories like seminarians who may have some defined or laid down criteria in getting admission. So a lot of times, these are schools which may do their own interviews, select their students, then they bring it to the CSSPS Secretariat for ratification, and then we program it. So those ones are manually done. You may be looking at school for the blind, schools with special needs. Those ones are also manually done.
Does special needs include protocol persons, party members, and all that?
No, really, not really. I mean, that's why I said that you look at the manual placement. So the manual placement, you have that option. And of course, there is also an option within the manual placement where 5% of declared vacancies in every school is given to the stakeholders of the school. So for instance, let me give you a school like Presec Legon as an example.
Okay.
You have the stakeholders, the founders, the owners of the school, being the Presby mission or Presby mission. At the end of the day, the expectation is that if the Presby mission, the old boys, may want some admission to go to their end, that is recognized. 5% of all declared vacancies goes to them. So I may not know who it ends up with. Okay. It could end up with a politician, it could end up with a journalist, it could end up with a presenter, it could end up with the PRO. is allowed, where 5% of declared vacancies is given to the stakeholders of the school. That's also part of the manual placement arrangement. So again, it explains why you may be hearing that, well, somebody had grade 12, she had Presec, or he had Presec, I had grade 6, I did not get it. It's possible that such a person became a beneficiary of the 5% allocation that has been designated to the stakeholders of the school in terms of the declared vacancies. Again, you move from there, then you come to what we call self-placement. Self-placement occurs or happens when, after the automatic placement has been done, you fail to make any of your 6 choices. When you fail to make any of your 6 choices, the Ministry of Education or the Ghana Education Service or the CSSPS Secretariat will not impose a school on you. What happens is that we give you an opportunity to go onto our platform, our website, then make a school of your choice. So you go, you enter your index number. Of course, the system only is aware of the grade that you had, the total marks that you had, have your details in terms of the residential status and whether it's boarding or day. Then there are lists of schools that they will pop up based on your grade, and then you make a choice from it. So in short, if you look at the placement models, we have the automatic placement, which is how do you call it, engineered into a software, and then it runs and places students. Largely, a lot of the placement is done there. You move from the automatic placement. If you fail to obtain a choice, any of your choice, then you come to the self-placement, where you go to the portal and select a school of your choice. Beyond the self-placement, then you come to what we call the manual placement. Manual placement are for, like what I said, students in needs and special students, and those within the other categories that the school may have its own criteria, particularly those seminarians. And of course, within the manual placement, 5% of allocation is given to the stakeholders. Right. But of course, that is after the selection process has been done.
Completed. Yeah. Right. I know that for you watching us, you have a lot of questions to ask. I'm receiving a lot of messages, people having concerns. So you can call us. The numbers will be placed on your screens shortly. Let us know what your concerns are about this placement, new placement system that has been not entirely new, but there are a few novel portions of it. We are being told that you will be taken through that process. You should expect a video by this week, right?
Yeah, by this week, yeah.
By this week. So if you just completed BEC, be on the lookout. Will all the students be required to go back to their schools? Because you mentioned that the directorate will have to take them through. So if I'm a parent and I have access to the video, I mean, how exactly would they be organized?
You don't necessarily have to. I mean, the video, you may go and watch it in person.
Okay.
In your school. Those ones, the ministry together with GS have liaised with the GS officers at the district
Will
level.
it be on social media?
Yeah, you go to
www.freeshs.net.com.
The video is there where you can watch. So like I said, the Free SHS website, you also have the video where you can watch. But I mean, the only additions is the cluster system that is quite novel. Other than that, the number of schools that you are supposed to select remains the same. Say schools, category A, category B, category C school.
So what about people in communities that struggle to access technology?
Yeah, arrangements have been made for them through their district offices to show them the video. But of course, this is in addition to what we have already been doing. The sensitization process is being done. Our personnel are on the ground throughout this week to engage them, GS referred to some officers as CISOs. They are trained to explain the entire process to them. The register is delivered at the school level. Students are encouraged to visit there. In terms of the selection process, they are reminded to also do or collaborate with their parents, the teachers, and themselves to be able to go through a very enhanced and effective process. So plans are far advanced. I mean, arrangements have been made at the district and the school level. This is only just a top-up, that in terms of students who may not probably be willing to go to the schools to watch the video, you go to the Free SHS website and you download the video or you watch it yourself.
Right. So you can call us 0302-211-691, 0302-211-691. We have a first caller from Tripoli. Hello, Abdul. How are you doing? Let's hear your question.
That they can consider some of these rural community students to be able to be put into some of the A schools.
Abdul, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you quite well. Can you reduce the volume on your TV set? We are getting some terrible feedback. This is just for all of you who wish to call us. Kindly put your television on mute or turn it off completely so that we can hear you properly. Hello, Abdul. Let's try again. Hopefully we hear you.
Yes, what I was saying is, I want to ask Piero if there is an opportunity for children in the rural community, because I heard him mentioning that they do the placement based on their raw score. You realize that schools in the big cities have enough teachers, enough materials to be able to train their children to meet such a requirement. But when you go to the rural community, you will have a junior high school with one teacher or two teachers handle all the 8 subjects. And they will not be able to get such a good raw score to be placed in the first 12 schools. So I want to know whether there is this opportunity where they can bring some of these rural community students to also get access to these qualities. Because when you look at it, they are actually good, but lack of material and other things that you may not see them getting the required raw score.
Right, Abdul, thank you very much. So Mr. Kwating has a response.
Okay, so like I indicated, the placement is not entirely based on raw score, but it's only when there is a tie where raw score becomes a necessity, when your grade have to be, compared to somebody's grade before you are placed. You look at variables like your residential status, the program, of course, your raw score, and the grade that you had. But of course, as to the question about whether or not, we recognize and give some priority to students coming from the rural areas, apparently the current policy is that 30% of all declared vacancies, especially in the category A schools, have been reserved from students coming from the public schools. It's just an equity motivated or equity-driven policy.
But do you understand that the public schools, like he's saying, if you're in a public school in Accra or Kumasi, that is probably well served than a place like Tripoli, because we've been to Tripoli before. We know what happens there and the kind of quality that is served the kids there. So is there opportunity for people who are coming from such areas to also say we'll give them a quota? We appreciate that maybe due to issues like conflict or lack of materials, lack of logistics, lack of teachers, they may not. It will be unfair to put them toe to toe with people in the urban areas. In
raw fact, if you look at the disparity on which a decision ought to be made as to whether or not you are giving some leverage or some advantage, is largely centered on private and public-run schools.
Okay.
It's not necessarily location-based, because we are looking at it from location-based. It's the same number of GS staff that is taken to Tripoli. The same number of GS staff will also be taken to Kumasi, probably any government schools there. So in terms of the government school, the resources is almost the same. Of course, we cannot say that it will absolutely be the same or the same in terms of absolute terms, but it's almost the same. But
Mr. Kwating, sorry, I'm sorry, I'm just picturing what I saw in Tripoli in my mind, and I cannot accept that it will be the same with a public school here in Accra.
Of course, I have not said it's the same. I'm just saying
almost the same.
No, I'm coming. Close. No, I'm saying that the role disparity lies in students having education from the private space or private schools as compared to those within the public schools. So that's where currently the policy is. But of course, all other discussions relative to, in terms of even among the government, even with this one, we are having some stiff opposition from the leadership of the private schools, where they feel that it poses some unfair advantage to those in public schools and what have you. So yes, along the way, it could be a consideration, but the current policy is that students from the public schools, in terms of access to those category A schools, that is the overly subscribed schools, about 86 of them, 30% allocations has already been made for them.
We have another caller from Japan. Hello, Kunde, let's hear you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
In education, we have what we refer to as placement. And the discussion over here, I don't know whether room is created for those who should go to vocational or technical schools, and those who should go to pure secondary schools geared towards pure academic work in the university.
Right, Kunda, I think Mr. Kwating has addressed that. They all go through the same placement process, but for those who want to go to the NVTIs, for example.
The TVET schools, that's what I said. This time around, about 212 of them. Is largely the same process, just that you have to select those schools, especially if you want to go to Australia or you want to do Australia TVET. What it means is that you have to select for all your 6 choices, the TVET schools. In terms of the TVET school, these are the vocational schools. We also have the categorizations, category A, category B, category C, and the category D, which almost same explanation that are offered to the general senior high school education also applies.
Right. And you mentioned some STEM schools. So is it that there's a list of schools attached to the forms that will be downloaded or picked up from the various schools that these students completed from? How do they know the choices of schools available to them? Yeah, there is a register that is attached to the selection form. Okay. So students have access to the register at the school's level. And like I indicated, www.freeshs.net, the website, access to the video, and the register is also there where students can
actually go there and download themselves. But of course, if you go to all your schools, there is there.
And it includes mainstream, TVET, and the STEM.
Yeah,
the STEM
schools. The STEM schools. This year we are looking at Bosomitri Girls, Abomosu STEM, Kwasi STEM, Pesempe, and Awaso STEM. These are all newly built schools, but of course they are just science-oriented, purely going to do science career pathways programs. You look at engineering, aerospace engineering. These are all STEM career pathways.
All right. Okay. And these schools, do they have residential facilities? Or?
Yeah, they have.
They do.
Have. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're watching us and you have a child who has shown interest in STEM, you may want to consider these schools that have just been put up so that you can help your child find an easy path to their career. So once the completion is done, when are the students expected to submit the forms and who do they submit them to?
I think it's between 31st of this month to the 18th of November. That's where the selection process is expected to be completed. So after the process is done, it's presented to the school level. So the GHS where the students enroll, that's where they have to present the forms. Their teachers are around to assess them in terms of even filling the forms, because there is a portion where parents are even supposed to sign to attest that they were part of the process.
Right.
I mean, so often at times after the placement process, you get a parent saying that I was not aware. So it's a more reason why in times like this, using mediums like this, we will also encourage parents to be part of the process and not necessarily be passive watchers of the process. They should really get themselves actively in the process, make sure they pick their forms together with their words from the school. If they are unable to, they can pick the selection form online, fill it together with their students. Of course, I mean, in terms of if they need further explanations and advices, they can contact GS office locally or even their schools. Their teachers will be able to assess the students' performance and of course, I mean, together with the parents and the kids themselves, know the career pathway that they want to do before they are able to make selection. After that, the forms are presented to the head teacher of the school, who then in turn facilitates to WAEC, and then the process compilation is done for annual placement.
Okay, it's submitted to WAEC, not the Ministry of Education.
No, apparently there is a WAEC office and there is a website where they upload.
Okay.
If you look at the data, the raw data comes from WAEC. But I mean, they have that level of collaboration with the CSSPA Secretariat.
Okay.
It's the Secretariat that actually does the placement, not the ministry per se.
Interesting. All right, we have another caller from Ho. Hello, Bismarck. Let's hear you. Hello, Bismarck.
Hello.
Good morning. Let's hear you, please.
My problem is about I'm on the line, please. Yeah, my problem is about TVET. I'm one who attended technical school. I went to technical school not because I was not good in the classroom. I went to technical school because of a choice. But the problem I had was that because we didn't write exams like English and math as a subject, we were finding it difficult at some point in life. Though we had a chances to work, but that thing worried us too much. So I would like the authorities who are trying to make TVET attractive to find a way so that they can write English and math as a separate paper. So that because mostly when you go to technical or vocational school, doesn't mean you don't know anything. But wherever you go, they'll be asking you English and math, English and math. So I would like them to find means and then let people who are in technical and vocational schools have a subject, a written subject, English and math, have a certificate on it so that at least when they go to places to go and look for work or other things, they will know that it isn't that because they are not good, that is why they went to technical school. I suffered it.
Sorry about that, Bismarck. Thank you so much for calling us. So clearly a real life example here. So how do we handle
I really do not know the time where he offered his program and completed the school. But I mean, recently, the current position is that initially, what we had was about 35 different institutions placed under 19 different ministries, doing their own things in terms of the vocational education. As part of the Education Bodies Regulatory Act, TVET service was established, which is now a fully fledged agency, fully operational, established to address TVET issues, and then define a framework for TVET education. As I speak with you, TVET is a fully fledged organization, institution, doing their own thing. They offer the normal analogous programs that you may know, English, mathematics, integrated science, in addition to the vocational aspect. I'm sure it's even the more reason why last year, for instance, a lot of subscription went there. Now, they have their Director General, the Deputy Director Generals, all really working in terms of the TVET space. So now if you look at TVET, it's also like another GES, unlike initially where you had TVET, merged.
All right, okay.
All these concerns have been addressed.
So Bismarck, you had the PRO for yourself. So I have a question. This one was sent in by a teacher concerning the integrated science paper for the BEC students. I don't know if you've seen on social media, quite a number of people have raised concerns.
What are they saying?
So when they're saying that, so let me read verbatim. He says, we can't be projecting STEM education and at the same time subjecting our kids to these questions to be answered within 75 minutes. It simply doesn't add up. The questions were overloaded and posed excessive stress on the students. The question 1 being the test of practical is equivalent to what is done at SHS level as integrated science 3, which is a separate 2-hour paper. Have you seen the concerns raised about the integrated science paper?
I went for monitoring in the Asante Achem district. Apparently they were writing integrated science, but I never heard such concerns. I want to believe that the examiners who set the questions will not go beyond the standard measure. I'm here to hear, the general outcry. It could be an isolated incident, but of course, it is something that we'll consider, we'll alert WAEC on. It's an independent body that makes or conducts the examination, of course, with content from the syllabus. It's not really under the ministry, but it's something that I'm sure WAEC even probably have picked the signals, but we're also going to communicate to them so that if indeed that is the case, they may also have to look at it going forward.
All right. So we have our final caller, I believe, Deladem from Pupa. Say hello, Dela. Oh, too bad. We lost Deladem there. So briefly in wrapping up, you run us through the automatic placement, but how do parents go through the self-placement process just in case their wards or children are not able to get a school through the automatic placement system?
Yeah, so as of now, what is most important is for them to, first of all, understand the selection process, the new additions being the cluster system, and also understand that if they indicate that they want a cluster, what it means is that if they miss out on that very option, alternative schools within that particular cluster will be assigned to them if they select cluster. But of course, beyond that, the expectation is that after the selection process, they will be placed using the automatic placement model. If they fail to secure placement, that is not the end. What it means is that we do not want to impose a choice on you as a secretariat.
Right.
And then we give you an option. You go to our website, you enter your details, which is your index number, list of schools that corresponds or tally with the grade that you had. Of course, is also, in terms of you select the region that you may want to go, list of schools will pop up, then you select. It's that very easy process. But this year, we want to reduce the self-placement as much as possible. It is a more reason why we've introduced the cluster system. So that if you select Wegehe and you indicate cluster, and you do not get Wegehe, what you are telling us is that if there is a space in the Bruegels, we should put you there. If there is space in Mfantsman, we should put you there.
All right. So, so what's the point of having the cluster system if the person has 6 options? I'll come to that. But let's take our last caller, Anthony from Bubuashi. Hello, Anthony. Let's hear you.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, my problem is I want to ask the PRO if I want to know the cutoff point for the, how do you call it, the vocational system and then the system that he was talking about. And secondly, I want to find out if your ward having to have a placement last year. Is it possible that you can have a placement this year?
Right. Thank you very much, Anthony. They're really, really important questions.
Starting from the question on the cutoff point. Last year, for instance, the criteria was that if you fail to obtain both English and mathematics, we give you an opportunity to go and resit for the BEC again, of course, at the ministry's cost. If you fail only English and pass mathematics, I mean, much attention is given to the core subjects. If you fail only English and pass mathematics, we give you an opportunity to justify yourself in any of the choices that you made, I mean, going forward in any of the SHS schools that you want to go, or TVET schools. So largely, maths or English, if you fail one of them, you are given an option to justify yourself.
Okay.
But if you fail both, then we give you an opportunity to go and rewrite the BEC. So last year, that was the criteria. We do not have a cutoff point in terms of an number,
aggregate.
Or an aggregate, yeah.
All right.
In terms of,
so the focus is on English and maths
English
and ensuring that...
Because those are the basis and the foundations of
all right, okay.
I think he asked a follow-up question.
Yes, that one was about what you can do if you didn't get a placement last year.
Yeah. I mean, there is an opportunity for re-entry. You go to the GES office and pick a form. Well, a lot of students, I'm not sure they did not get placement, but they were placed but probably failed to pick up the placement. Of course, due to a lot of reasons that may be very peculiar to them or personal to them. There is also an option for you, so far as you've passed the BEC and you qualify or eligible to be placed. You walk to the GES office or you go to the freeshs.net, the website. There is a form for re-entry. You fill it and then submit at the GES office. I mean, there is even an option for international students, but I'm sure that one you have to walk to the ministry or GES at the national level, pick a form, you fill it, and also you'll be considered for the subsequent placements. So all arrangements are...
Right, so we'll be wrapping up shortly, but back to my question about the cluster system and whether or not it defeats the whole purpose of having options. So you have the opportunity to choose 6 schools, yet we are introducing a cluster system. So I choose Infantaman Girls, and when I choose Infantaman Girls, I say cluster option. That is to say, if I don't get Infantaman, you can post me to any school within the category of Infantaman.
Yeah.
But I have 5 more options.
Yeah.
I mean, how does that work? I'm just...
Yeah, so what you have to understand is that you may probably have had grade 6. You miss out on your first choice. You should be considered ordinarily for your second choice. Always record that your second choice is also somebody's first choice. It's possible you missed out there. Your third choice is possible you missed out there. It's even the more reason why a lot of people also go to the self-placement model, where they miss out on any of their choices. So imagine a student getting 6 and missing out on all their choices, especially at a time where there is a possibility that the category A schools could even be full.
Yeah.
The experience that we've had over the years in terms of this placement has been that if somebody selects St. Peter's and he does not get St. Peter's and you give him an option of Opokuare, it's likely the person will pick it up. So why don't you give such a student that first option, even in the first place, especially where there could be vacancies within those schools? Because first of all, the cluster system is not compulsory.
Okay.
You can indicate that St. Peter's, you don't, beyond St. Peter's, you don't want any other school. Then you'll be taken through the normal process. The cluster system is only another advantage if you want to put it in that perspective.
Okay. So help me understand. At my time, I could choose, for example, Achimota first choice, Achimota second choice, Achimota third choice. But I know through interactions with the ministry that subsequently students could not do that.
Yeah, you're able to
chose one school from a category A school, it meant that you couldn't choose any other school again. It had to be from different categories as as your options dwindle to the set point. So that's why the cluster is important. And so is a cluster only for category A schools, or you can choose a cluster for any of your options?
It's for any of the options. But remember, the cluster does not cover all schools. The cluster is limited to some selected number of schools, which is predominantly region-based.
Okay.
So for instance, if you select Presec Legon, it's possible you may have about 4 or 5 schools within the cluster of Presec Legon. You come to Konogo Udmasi, you can get up to 8 cluster of schools within Konogo Odumase. If you select yes, essentially what they are telling us is that if you do not get Konogo Odumase, you should be considered for Kumasi Anglican, or you should be considered for Osei Tutu, or you should be considered for other equally category B schools. So that's what the cluster whole arrangement is. But like I indicated, people may also be that very confident, not necessarily confident per se, but people may want a particular school. They say that Wegehe, if I don't get Wegehe, don't give me any school within that cluster. Consider me for my category B, my second choice school. If I also don't get it, consider it for my third choice school. People may also opt for that, and that is also allowed. Is that, I mean, to give students more opportunity in terms of being placed, automatically, that is the key word, because the placement can even be done by self, that is a self-placement. Automatically, we give the option of the cluster to also assist students.
Right, so you had the Kwesi Kwarteng. He is PRO of the Ministry of Education, giving us some explanations on what to expect in this year's placement system. You know that students completed the PECE on Friday. We've heard quite a lot. If you missed out on any point of this conversation, just get back onto our Facebook page. You will be furnished with all the details that you need to know. But the most important thing is to remember that the Free Senior High School free SHS, please remind us about
www.freeshs.net.
Yeah. You will find the forms there that you need to fill and
the video too.
To get into a senior high school. And then there will be a video for you to teach you the process of doing that, because there are a few additions and novelties this time. For those of you who live in places where you don't have access to the internet or technology, your district education office will help you out. And so just stay alert and stay glued to your TV sets as well. The Ministry of Education will be running a few more of these educational programs for you to know what's happening. But thank you so much for joining us this morning. Kwesi Kwarteng speaks for the Ministry of Education. Not talking about education, I don't know if you watched any of the semi-final contest yesterday. I did, and it was interesting. The real shocker was at Adisadel College. I just realized I'm in black and white. It's not deliberate. I went to Infantuman Girls, and so our boys' school is at Adisadel. Honestly, I just realized that I am in black and white, and that's to support Adisadel College. Not intentional though, but I mean, it's okay if I throw my weight behind them. But theirs was a real surprise, because they went into the semi-finals with the lowest score, yet they upset Augusto, which had a really high score going into the semi-finals. We'll be back to have that conversation shortly. But hello, Ghana, happy moment is here. Let's storm Qatar this World Cup with Storm Energy Drink, Puma Soft Drinks, and Awake Drinking Water from Casapreco Company Limited. Simply buy your favorite Storm Energy Drink, Puma Soft Drinks, and Awake Drinking Water. Text the 4-digit unique number in the neck of the bottle to short code *780#2 and follow the prompt on all networks for free. Be one of the lucky winners to this year's World Cup in the monthly draw. You can also win TVs, fridges, microwave ovens, mobile phones, home theaters, free drinks, and more instantly. Don't waste time. Grab a bottle of Storm Energy Drink, Puma Soft Drinks, and Awake Drinking Water, and let's storm Qatar this World Cup. This promotion is on the NLA Caritas platform, and this advert is FDA approved. Terms and conditions apply. We'll be back shortly. Do stay.
We are live from Kumasi here in the Ashanti region, coming to you from the car park of where the students, the contestants of the National Science and Maths Quiz have been lodging. The car park used to be very busy, but now it is empty because, as you know, more than 50 schools have been eliminated from the competition, and now we are down to just 3 schools in the grand finale of the National Science and Maths Quiz. We're coming to you, and we are live from Kumasi on the Joy News channel. We are also live on Joy Prime. My name is Maxwell Agbagba, and I'll be interacting with the finalists from Presec Legon at Disadel College, and then the contestants from Prempeh College would also be joining us shortly. But from Disadel College, we have Prince Abuaje, we also have Parkway Sidonko, and then we have Abdul Wadud Abdul Mumin. They are from Disadel College. And from Presec Legon, we have Alfred Ken in Siam, and we also have Austin Afutu, and then we have John Tinkran, also from Presec Legon. Let me start with the gentleman from Presec Legon. I know many of you have been nursing the dream of representing, your dream schools. I'm sure back in junior high school, you wanted to represent, your SHS at the National Science and Maths Quiz. In fact, there's a picture, there's a viral photo of you, Alfred, and then another person at the finals of the 2021 quiz, right? Tell me, when did you start dreaming of getting on the stage of the National Science and Maths Quiz? Alfred, let me start with you.
So when we came to Presec, when we came to Presec, we heard of the Science and Maths Quiz.
Okay.
And from there on, we decided that we will try and put in our efforts so that we can become like our seniors. And from then, we started working towards it. And look at how far God has brought us.
So for you, it started from senior high school?
Yes, but I saw the NSMQ before senior high school.
Okay. And that's where the interest started from, I won't believe.
Yes.
Okay. And then who else was in the auditorium? Was it
John.
Austin or John? John, tell me, at the time, 2021, when you were sitting in the auditorium, did you think that you were going to represent Presec Legon? I'm sure by then they were preparing you to represent the school, right? Okay.
Yeah, as at that time, I was optimistic that I'll join a team and represent the school so that the trophy will bring it to Presec.
Okay, great. Let me come to you. Prince Abuaje. Where's Prince? This is Prince, yeah, Prince. Tell me, how did it start for you also, the NSMQ journey? Did it start from junior high school or from SHS?
It started when I completed junior high school.
Okay.
After we've chosen our schools, then I saw I decided competing in the semi-final.
Okay,
but it didn't really go on for us. So I decided that if I get to attend at this Adele, I'll try my possible best to represent our school, the school.
Okay. What was that? So did the National Science and Maths Quiz influence your decision to choose at Disadel College for senior high school?
Partly, yes.
Partly?
Yes.
Okay. Let me find out from the gentleman from Prempeh College. Prempeh College. Is it the same thing from you? The dream started from junior high school?
No. For me, the dream started in primary.
In primary?
Yes, please.
Tell me about it.
I think around class 4,
yeah,
we were watching the quiz with my mom, and then a settled riddle came. I think the answer was carbon dioxide. So after answering it, I felt, oh, I can do this. So I tried my best.
Okay. And so that's how it started for you. Okay. Now let me come to Disadel College. The contest, the semi-final contest that got you into the grand finale, you came in as the underdogs. Because in your previous contest, you had scored the lowest, you had had the lowest scores in your previous contest before, the semi-final. And you came up against giants like Opokuwari School and then St. Augustine's College, who had the highest points that we've seen at the quarterfinal stage. Did you see yourselves as underdogs coming into that?
Well, not really. We understood that the contest was going to be tough, but then we put our trust in the Lord. So we just went into the contest optimistic that we'll come out victorious.
Okay. One of you was a business student, right? At this other college? None? Okay, so a little bit whispered in my ears that one of you was a business student. Okay, none of you are all science students. All science students. Okay. Okay, great. Let me move on to Presec Legon. Tell me, I'm sure you've heard a talk about equaling the number of times that you have won the trophy. We've been interacting with old students of Prempeh College, and they tell us that their dream this year, their objective this year, their target this year is to equal the number of times that you have won the trophy. They believe that that is all that Presec Legon stands for. So if they equal the number of times that you've won the trophy, then they'll be at par, with you. You also want to extend your lead from 6 to 7. Is that going to happen on Wednesday?
By the grace of God, it's going to happen.
By the grace of God, it's going to happen. Alfred, is it going to happen? You can pass the microphone to him.
Yeah, as long as it's God's will, it's going to happen.
Okay. Prempeh College, what would it mean to be at par with Presec Legon? What kind of pride, what kind of joy does it bring to you as students of Prempeh College?
Winning this trophy, that's the sixth one, will make us happier. And also, since we will now equal Presec in terms of the count of number of trophies we've won, no Presec students will be able to say to Prempeh that we are better than you in this way or that way. Yeah.
Okay. Now, at this other college, I think it's important for us to talk about history, right? People say, our elders actually say that those who ignore history condemn themselves to not knowing the present. So it's important for us to talk about history. At this other college, from the years 2015 to 2018, you've been to the grand finale 4 times. And 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. But you've only won the trophy once. You won it once in 2016. Do you think that history would repeat itself on the stage of the grand finale come Wednesday, that you fought hard, got into the grand finale, but didn't win? Does it create some kind of anxiety, some kind of fear for you, looking back on what has happened, in the past?
Fear, no. We just hope for the best and then let God's will be done. That's the primary aim. So whether we win, whether we lose, that's God's will.
So you'll be fine if you lose?
No, we won't be fine, but then
okay.
Yeah, we are just hoping for the best.
Okay.
And we'll know that we'll come out victorious.
Okay. Again, a little bit whispered to me that in your quarterfinal contest, the one that you had 31 marks, 31 scores against Assin State College, you beat them by just 2 points. Someone told me that you had a lot of pressure on you because your old students were at the auditorium. So there was actually a plan for them to be absent this time around, so you go just do your thing. How true is that?
That's not true. That's not really true.
It's not true?
It's not true.
It's not?
No.
Okay. Let me go to Presec Legon. You had some donations, when was that? Last week, right? Before the semi-final contest. Or you were busy studying, so you'll not be able to tell?
I don't really remember.
Okay. Tell me, what kind of pressure representing Presec Legon definitely must come with some kind of pressure, with old students saying that they want to win the trophy. That's the only thing they want. If you play second, no, that's not the ultimate. That's not what they want. Are you under any pressure to deliver on Wednesday?
We know the old boys are supporting us massively, but we also trust in God, and we are putting all the pressure that they are supposed to give us on God. So we have nothing or no burden on us.
Okay. Prempeh College, what should we expect on Wednesday at the Great Hall? Are you winning your 6th trophy to equal the number of times?
Yes.
Presec Legon has won?
Yes.
You are winning?
We are winning. By God's grace. You'll be winning this.
All of them are saying God's grace. You have to say something different. Because they are all banking their hopes on God's grace.
Yeah.
So yours must be different.
Well, it's always God.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Presec Legon, what should we expect on Wednesday? Are you extending your lead to 7 to be at the top of the NSNQ trophy table?
Yes, by the grace of God, we win and bring the 7.
By the grace of God, you win.
Yes, please.
Okay. At this other college, are you also winning? What should we expect on Wednesday?
Expect the very best from us, and that we let God's will be done.
Okay. Can we hear it from you too?
We are aware of what we have to do on Wednesday, so we'll put in our best, our very best, and then hopefully, inshallah, we'll come out on top.
Okay. Okay, I think now we should pass on the microphone to those who've not spoken. I think, Austin, you didn't say anything. Yeah, say something, Austin. Before we wrap up. We are wrapping up, yeah, so say something.
Well, we do believe that the contest is not going to be an easy one, because for the fact that all the other schools are in the finals, it actually means that they are possible winners. So it's just that we have to continue to put our trust on Jehovah God, so that no matter how the contest goes, like during the contest, no matter what we think the outcome might be, we'll just keep on trusting in him, and then we'll be able to win the 7th trophy.
Okay, great, Austin. Yeah. Prempeh College.
So we should expect the very best from us coming Wednesday at the Great Hall.
Okay. Okay. I want to say a big thank you to you, gentlemen, at this other college, Presec Legon, and then Prempeh College. We're going to see you at the grand finale on Wednesday at the Great Hall. We're going to see how that goes. But remember that the 2022 National Science and Maths Quiz is produced by Primetime Limited and sponsored by the Ghana Education Service in partnership with APSA Ghana, and also supported by Gull, Prudential Life Insurance, and Airtel Tigo. The broadcast of the National Science and Maths Quiz on JoyNews is supported by Virtual InfoSec Africa, Virtual Security Africa, Vitamilk, Cowbell, alumni by Enterprise Life, Fates Toilet Roll, Ace Medical Insurance, Azan Group, Kings Group Limited, Family Health Medical School, the Basto School, DBS, Koba, ZNZ, Smart App, NASCO, and Lumitras from Farmer Trust. Remember that the grand finale is going to be live on the Joy News channel at exactly 2:00 p.m. We've been bringing you all the contests, and you cannot afford to miss out on what will be happening at the grand finale come Wednesday. My name is Maxwell Agbagban. I came to you from Kumasi, right at the car park, the residence where the contestants, have been lodging. Bye-bye from Kumasi.
It's now time for us to also say bye-bye from Accra. Yeah. Thank you so much for making time to be with us. Quickly, happy birthday to Mrs. Martha Vioto, Asafumami of Living Foundations Assemblies of God Church, Koliko, Accra. Grow in grace, good health, and prosperity. And it's from your husband, Reverend Francis Vioto. Well, Brace, God willing, tomorrow we are back again. Sure. Maps is standing by, putting a lot of pressure on us. But she comes your way shortly with News Desk. Do stay, and thanks for your company once again.
But before we go, a friend of mine, Rashida Brace, the Business Development Manager for Hunter Bank, is also celebrating a birthday today. So
right, happy birthday.
A blessed birthday to him as well. Ciao.